On Elva Owens's 18th birthday, the pack elder told her that a mate would be the greatest blessing the moon goddess could give. "Trust her wisdom," the old woman said, smiling as if destiny was always kind, simple, and easy to understand. But Elva would soon learn that the goddess's wisdom did not always look like a blessing. Sometimes, to everyone else, it looked like madness. When the pull of the bond led her deep toward the forbidden southern border, Elva did not find a proud warrior waiting for her. She found a lone wolf collapsed near death, his amber eyes full of pain, his body marked with scars, and his past hidden behind silence. He warned her to run. He told her to forget him. He acted as if kindness was dangerous and betrayal was inevitable. The pack laughed when Elva claimed him as her mate. They mocked her for believing a wounded rogue, a wolf who could barely remember his own name, could be chosen for her by the goddess. They called her foolish when she risked everything to hide him, heal him, and protect him from the hunters who wanted him dead. But they did not know who he truly was. The broken rogue they despised was the rightful Alpha King, the one wolf powerful enough to change the fate of every pack. They did not know they were mocking a wolf who could one day bring them all to their knees, and in those first terrifying weeks, Elva did not know either. Not yet. Chapter 1: The Omega's Disgrace. The Silver Creek Pack dining hall smelled of roasted venison, fresh bread, and smoke from the great fireplace. It should have felt warm and comforting, but Elva's stomach twisted with anxiety. She moved along the edge of the room with her tray held carefully in both hands, her eyes lowered in the submissive way expected of every Omega. "Watch where you're going, Omega." Elva froze at once and pressed herself against the wall. Karina Bright swept past her, golden hair flowing down her back like sunlight. She was the Alpha's daughter, beautiful, powerful, and admired by everyone, everything Elva would never be. "Sorry, Miss Bright," Elva whispered, keeping her gaze on the floor. Karina did not answer. She never did. To wolves like Karina, Omegas were useful when needed and invisible the rest of the time. Only when Karina was gone did Elva continue toward the far corner of the hall, where the other Omegas always sat. Their table was away from the windows, away from the fire, tucked into the darkest part of the room. "Elva, over here." Janine Church waved her over with a small smile. She was one of the few wolves who had shown Elva real kindness since Elva had been reduced to Omega status 5 years ago. "We saved you a seat." Elva sat beside her, grateful for the small comfort. Across the table, Frida Davidson picked at her food, her expression tense. "What's wrong?" Elva asked quietly. Frida glanced around before leaning closer. "There's going to be a mating ceremony next week. Alpha Hutchins is announcing his daughter's mate." Elva's heart sank. "Timothy Marsh?" Janine nodded. "The beta's son. Politically, it's a perfect match. He's strong, handsome, and from a respected bloodline. Karina has been proud of it for months." Frida gave a soft sigh. "It must be nice to have everything. Beauty, power, and a mate worthy of your rank." Elva said nothing. She had learned long ago that speaking about such things only invited pain. At 23, she was one of the oldest unmated females in the pack, and everyone knew it. Omegas rarely found mates. Their rank was too low, their wolves too weak, their value too easily dismissed. The truth was, Elva had stopped hoping years ago. "Attention!" Alpha Anthony Hutchins's booming voice silenced the hall instantly. Every wolf rose, heads bowed, as the Alpha stood at the high table. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair touched by silver and cold eyes that could freeze a wolf in place. Beside him stood Karina, chin lifted proudly, radiant in a midnight blue dress that looked worth more than Elva could earn in a year. "As many of you know," Alpha Hutchins began, his voice carrying across the silent room, "we have much to celebrate. Next week, under the full moon, my daughter Karina will be formally mated to Timothy Marsh, son of our honored Beta." Applause filled the hall. Timothy rose near the high table, smiling as he accepted the attention. He was handsome in the way Pax admired: strong jaw, confident posture, warrior's build. Exactly the kind of male everyone expected to stand beside a future Luna. Elva clapped along with everyone else, her movements automatic. She felt nothing watching them. No envy, no longing, just a vague, distant ache for a life she'd never have. "However," Alpha Hutchins continued, raising a hand for silence, "before we celebrate, we must address pack business. There have been reports of a rogue wolf spotted near our southern border. A lone wolf, by all accounts, wounded and possibly dangerous." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Lone wolves were rare wolves without packs, cast out or self-exiled. They were unpredictable, often violent, driven mad by isolation from pack bonds. "Beta Marsh and his warriors will hunt this rogue down," the Alpha declared. "We will not tolerate threats to our territory. Not now, not ever." More applause. Timothy looked pleased, no doubt eager to prove himself before his mating ceremony. Elva felt that strange pull again, the one she'd been feeling for the past 3 days. A tugging sensation deep in her chest, like a string tied around her heart, pulling her south, toward the border, toward the rogue. She'd tried to ignore it, tried to convince herself it was nothing, just stress or illness or exhaustion. But it was getting stronger, more insistent. No, she thought firmly. It can't be. The goddess wouldn't be that cruel. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Elva completed her duties, clearing tables, scrubbing dishes, preparing the hall for tomorrow's breakfast with mechanical efficiency. Her mind was elsewhere, chasing that persistent pull, trying to understand what it meant. When she finally retreated to the Omega quarters, a long, drafty building behind the main pack house, she was exhausted. The quarters housed 20 Omegas in cramped bunks, with thin walls that did little to block out sound or cold. Elva collapsed onto her bunk, the thin mattress offering little comfort. Around her, other Omegas were settling in for the night, their quiet conversations a familiar backdrop. "Elva?" She turned to find Janine standing beside her bunk, concern etched across her features. "You've been distracted all day," Janine said softly. "Are you okay?" Elva wanted to confide in her, to share the strange pull she'd been feeling, but what would she say? That she thought she might have a mate? That she thought her mate might be the rogue wolf everyone was planning to hunt down and kill? She'd sound insane. "I'm fine," Elva lied. "Just tired." Janine didn't look convinced, but she didn't push. "Get some rest. Tomorrow's gonna be busy, with all the ceremony preparations." After Janine left, Elva lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The pull was stronger now, almost painful. Her wolf, that small, weak presence that had never been particularly vocal, was whining, pacing, desperate. "Mate," her wolf whispered. "Mate is hurt. Mate needs us." Elva pressed her palms against her eyes, fighting back tears. This couldn't be happening. The goddess couldn't possibly have mated her to a rogue, a wolf marked for death by her own pack. But as the hours crawled by and sleep refused to come, Elva knew she had no choice. She had to see him, had to know for sure. Even if it destroyed her. Elva slipped out of the Omega quarters just before dawn, when the sky was still purple-black and the pack was mostly asleep. She dressed in her plainest clothes, dark pants, and a worn jacket, and moved with the practiced silence of someone used to being invisible. The southern border was a 2-hour walk through dense forest. The pull guided her like a compass, growing stronger with each step. Her heart hammered against her ribs, fear and anticipation warring in her chest. What if he rejected her? What if he was truly dangerous? What if? The scent hit her first. Pine and smoke and something wild, something that made her wolf surge forward with desperate recognition. It was intoxicating, overwhelming, perfect. Mate. Elva pushed through a final thicket of bushes and froze. He was there, collapsed against the base of a massive oak tree, barely conscious. Even in the dim pre-dawn light, She could see the wounds, deep gashes across his chest and arms, bruises mottling his skin, clothes torn and bloody. But it was his face that made her breath catch. He was beautiful. Even broken and bleeding, there was something magnetic about him. Sharp features, strong jaw, dark hair matted with dirt and blood, and his eyes when they fluttered open to look at her were the most striking shade of amber she'd ever seen. "Stay back," he rasped, his voice rough with pain and warning. "I'm not safe." Elva should have listened, should have run. But the mate bond was singing in her veins, drowning out every rational thought. "You're hurt," she whispered, kneeling beside him. "Let me help you." "No." He tried to pull away but was too weak. "Your pack. They'll kill me if they find me here." "I know." Elva reached out, her hands trembling, and gently touched his face. The bond flared to life at the contact, golden and warm and absolutely certain. His eyes widened, shock replacing the pain. Your mate," Elva finished, tears streaming down her face. "The goddess help us both, but I'm your mate." For a long moment they simply stared at each other. Then, impossibly, he smiled a broken, bitter thing. "The goddess has a cruel sense of humor," he murmured. "Pairing you with someone like me." "What happened to you?" Elva asked, already pulling off her jacket to press against his worst wounds. "Who did this?" "Doesn't matter." His eyes were starting to close again. "You should leave me, forget you found me, find someone worthy of you." "No." The word came out fierce, surprising them both. "You're my mate. I'm not leaving you." She didn't know where the conviction came from. She'd been weak and submissive her entire life, trained to obey, conditioned never to fight back. But something about this broken wolf, this stranger who was somehow hers, made her brave. "What's your name?" she asked, as she worked to clean his wounds with water from her canteen. He watched her with those amber eyes, something unreadable in his expression. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. "Mitchell," he said. "Mitchell Holland. I'm Elva. Elva Owens." "Elva." He tested her name, and even in his weakened state, the way he said it made her shiver. "You're an Omega." It wasn't a question. He could smell it on her, the rank that marked her as lesser. "Yes," she said, waiting for the rejection, the disgust. But Mitchell just nodded, his eyes drifting closed. "Perfect," he murmured, so softly she almost missed it. "They'll never suspect." Before Elva could ask what he meant, he lost consciousness. She sat back on her heels, looking at this mysterious wolf who fate had bound her to. The sun was starting to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Soon the pack would wake. Soon the hunt would begin. Elva had a choice to make. She could leave him here, return to her life, pretend she'd never felt the pull, let the warriors find him, and end whatever threat he posed. It would be the smart thing, the safe thing. Or she could protect her mate, even though it meant defying her alpha, risking everything she'd ever known, and binding herself to a wolf who was quite possibly dangerous. Her wolf had no doubts. Mate, protect, ours. Elva looked down at Mitchell's unconscious form and made her choice. "I hope you're worth it," she whispered. Then she began the work of hiding him, of finding a way to save them both from the fate that was surely coming. She didn't know that the broken wolf she was protecting was the most powerful alpha in all the territories. Didn't know that his scars hid secrets that would shake the foundations of every pack. Didn't know that choosing him would make her a queen. All she knew was that he was hers, and she would not abandon him, even if it destroyed her. Chapter 2. The Hidden Sanctuary. The old hunting cabin was a relic from before Elva's time, a structure so forgotten that even the pack's detailed territory maps no longer marked its location. She'd discovered it by accident 3 years ago while foraging for herbs, drawn by the scent of wild thyme growing through the rotted floorboards. Now, dragging an unconscious wolf twice her size through 2 miles of forest, Elva thanked the goddess for that chance discovery. Mitchell was heavy, his weight a constant strain on her smaller frame. Omegas weren't built for this kind of physical labor, their wolves were weaker, their strength limited, but desperation gave her endurance she didn't know she possessed. "Almost there," she panted, more to herself than to him. "Just a little further." The cabin appeared through the trees like a mirage, weathered wood, sagging roof, windows so covered in grime they were nearly opaque. It wasn't much, but it was shelter. More importantly, it was hidden. Elva managed to get Mitchell inside and onto the single cot that occupied one corner of the small space. The cabin was sparse, just the cot, a rickety table, 2 chairs, and a stone fireplace that looked like it hadn't been used in decades. Dust covered everything, and the air smelled of mold and mouse droppings. But it was safe. She worked quickly, her nurse's instincts learned from years of tending to injured pack members taking over. His wounds were severe, but not fatal. Deep claw marks across his chest and shoulders, defensive wounds on his forearms, bruises that suggested he'd taken a brutal beating. Someone had tried very hard to kill him. As Elva cleaned the wounds with water from the nearby stream and what little medical supplies she'd managed to grab from the Omega quarters, she studied Mitchell's face. Even unconscious and injured, there was something about him that seemed powerful. Not in the obvious way of pack warriors, but something deeper. Something that made her wolves sit up and pay attention despite their low rank. His amber eyes opened suddenly, pinning her in place. "You came back," he said, his voice rough. "I thought I'd dreamed you." "I'm real." Elva continued cleaning a particularly nasty gash on his shoulder. "And you're lucky I found you when I did. These wounds would have gotten infected." Mitchell watched her work, his expression unreadable. "Why? Why what? Why are you helping me? You don't know me. I could be dangerous. I could be everything your pack thinks I am." Elva paused, meeting his gaze directly. "You're my mate. That's all I need to know." Something flickered in his eyes, surprise, pain, something else she couldn't identify. "The mate bond doesn't make me a good person, Elva. It just means we're connected." "Are you a good person?" The question hung in the dusty air between them. Mitchell was quiet for a long moment, his jaw working as if wrestling with how to answer. "I'm a person who's made mistakes," he finally said. "Terrible ones. I'm a person who's been running for a very long time. From what? From who I was. From what I did." His eyes drifted to the ceiling. "From responsibilities I couldn't bear." Elva finished bandaging his shoulder and sat back, studying him. "You're being deliberately cryptic. I'm being deliberately careful." Mitchell's gaze returned to her. "The less you know about me, the safer you'll be." "I'm an Omega hiding a rogue wolf in an abandoned cabin," Elva said flatly. "I think we're past the point of safety." Despite everything, Mitchell smiled, a real smile that transformed his entire face. "You're braver than you think you are. Or stupider." Elva stood, wringing out the bloody cloth she'd been using. "Either way, you're stuck with me now. So you might as well tell me the truth. Who did this to you?" Mitchell's smile faded. "Wolves who wanted me dead. Obviously. But why?" "Because." He stopped, grimacing, as he tried to sit up. Elva rushed to help him, propping him against the wall. "Because I have something they want. Information. Power. Take your pick." "What kind of information?" "The kind that could destroy packs. Topple alphas. Rewrite the hierarchy that's been in place for centuries." Mitchell looked at her intensely. "The kind that gets everyone around me killed." Elva felt a chill run down her spine. "You're not just a rogue, are you?" "No." His voice was barely above a whisper. "I'm not." Before Elva could press further, a distant sound made them both freeze. Wolves howling the signal for a hunting party. "They're searching for you," Elva breathed, moving to the grimy window. Through the dirt she could see nothing, but the howls were getting closer. "You need to go," Mitchell said urgently, trying to stand despite his injuries. "If they find you here with me, they won't find us." Elva pushed him back down, her voice firm. "This cabin is off the maps. No one knows it exists. They have trackers, they'll follow my scent. Not if I mask it." Elva was already moving, gathering herbs from the pouch at her waist. "Wolfsbane, sage, thistle plants, that would confuse a wolf's sensitive nose. Trust me, I know how to stay invisible." Mitchell watched as she worked, grinding the herbs into a paste and spreading it around the cabin's entrance and windows. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it would help. "You've done this before," he observed. "I've had to hide from pack members before," Elva admitted, not meeting his eyes. "When I first became an Omega, some of the ranked wolves thought it was funny to hunt me. Chase me through the forest like prey. Mitchell's expression darkened dangerously. They hunted you? It was years ago. I learned to hide my scent, to stay invisible, to survive. Elva finished with the herbs and returned to his side. Now be quiet. They're close. They sat in tense silence as the sounds of the hunting party grew nearer. Elva could hear voices now: Beta Billy Riley shouting orders, warriors crashing through the underbrush, the excited yipping of younger wolves eager for their first hunt. Through the window, she caught glimpses of wolves passing by Timothy Marsh in his wolf form, powerful and golden-furred. Sammy Gentry, one of the pack's best trackers, nose to the ground. Donald Washburn and Alfonso Greer, warriors with reputations for brutality. They were so close. If any of them looked toward the cabin, if any of them caught Mitchell's scent, Elva held her breath, her hand unconsciously reaching for Mitchell's. His fingers closed around hers, warm and solid despite his injuries. Southeast, someone shouted. I've got a trail heading southeast. The sounds of the hunting party shifted direction, moving away from the cabin. Elva sagged with relief, but Mitchell's grip on her hand tightened. They'll be back, he said quietly. Once they lose the trail, they'll expand the search. Then we have time. Elva squeezed his hand. Time to figure out what to do next. What to do next is for you to reject the mate bond and go home, Mitchell said, his voice hard. Pretend you never found me. Live your life. Elva stared at him. You want me to reject you? I want you to survive. Mitchell pulled his hand away, turning his face to the wall. I'm not the mate you deserve, Elva. I'm not the happy ending your goddess promised you. The goddess doesn't promise happy endings, Elva said softly. She just promises we won't face the darkness alone. Pretty words. But I've seen what following me does to people. It destroys them. I won't do that to you. Elva felt something snap inside her, all those years of being told she was lesser, worthless, beneath notice. All those years of accepting it, of keeping her head down and her voice silent. You don't get to make that choice for me, she said, her voice sharp enough to make Mitchell turn back to her. I'm not some helpless Omega who needs protecting from her own decisions. I found you. I brought you here. I chose to save you, knowing the risks. You don't get to reject me, to protect me like I'm too stupid to understand danger. Mitchell blinked, clearly taken aback by her sudden fierceness. I've spent my entire life being told what I can't do, what I'm not worthy of, what I'm too weak to handle, Elva continued, years of suppressed anger bleeding into her words. I'm done accepting other people's definitions of who I am. You're my mate. I'm keeping you. And if you have a problem with that, you can argue about it when you're not bleeding all over my makeshift bandages. For a long moment, Mitchell just stared at her. Then, incredibly, he laughed, a sound of genuine amusement that seemed to surprise him as much as it surprised her. You're fiercer than you look, Omega. Don't call me that. Elva's eyes flashed. My name is Elva. Elva, Mitchell repeated, his expression softening. You're right. I'm sorry. You deserve to make your own choices. Thank you. She settled back against the wall beside him. Now, are you going to tell me what you're really running from? Or are we going to keep dancing around it? Mitchell was quiet for a long time, his amber eyes distant. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of old pain. I'm running from myself, he said. From who I used to be. From a position I abandoned because I wasn't strong enough to hold it. What position? One that came with responsibilities I couldn't fulfill. Expectations I couldn't meet. A destiny I never wanted. Mitchell's jaw clenched. I thought if I walked away, if I became nobody, I could escape it. But you can't escape what's in your blood. You're speaking in riddles again. I know. He looked at her, something vulnerable in his gaze. I want to tell you everything, Elva. I do. But once I do, everything changes. You can't unknow what I tell you. Can't unsee what I really am. Try me, Elva challenged. Mitchell studied her face, seeming to weigh something heavy in his mind. Finally, he nodded, as if coming to a decision. Okay, he said quietly. But not today. Today, I'm too weak. Today, I need to heal. Tomorrow when I'm stronger, I'll tell you everything. I'll tell you why wolves are hunting me. I'll tell you what I'm running from. I'll tell you secrets that could get us both killed. Tomorrow, Elva agreed, though impatience gnawed at her. But you promise? No more deflecting? I promise. Mitchell's hand found hers again. Tomorrow, you'll know exactly what kind of wolf you've bound yourself to. And then you can decide if you still want this bond. Elva wanted to argue that her mind was already made up, but something in Mitchell's expression stopped her. There was fear there. Carefully hidden but unmistakable. Fear that whatever he was about to reveal would drive her away. Tomorrow, she repeated softly. They sat in comfortable silence as the afternoon light filtered through the grimy windows. Outside, distant howls continued as the hunting party searched in vain. Inside the forgotten cabin, two wolves bound by fate and circumstance tried to figure out how to survive what was coming. Elva watched Mitchell's eyes grow heavy as exhaustion and healing pulled him toward sleep. Before he drifted off, he murmured something so quietly she almost missed it. You saved my life today, Elva Owens. One day, I'll repay that debt. I swear it. Elva didn't respond. She just held his hand and kept watch, this strange Omega girl and her mysterious mate, hidden away from the world that wanted to destroy them both. Tomorrow, she would learn his secrets. Tomorrow, everything would change. But today, they were safe. And for now, that was enough. Chapter 3. Secrets in the Moonlight. Elva woke to the sensation of being watched. Moonlight streamed through the cabin's broken windows, painting everything in shades of silver and shadow. She'd fallen asleep in the chair beside Mitchell's cot, her neck stiff from the awkward angle. But it was the weight of a gaze that had pulled her from sleep. Mitchell was awake, propped up against the wall, looking stronger than he had that morning. The color had returned to his face, and his amber eyes were clear, alert. He was watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. How long have you been awake? She asked, rubbing her neck. A few hours. His voice was stronger too, no longer rough with pain. You should have gone back to your pack, Elva. They'll notice you're missing. I told Janine I was sick. She'll cover for me. Elva stood, stretching out the kinks in her back. Besides, you promised me answers today. I'm not leaving until I get them. Mitchell's expression darkened. I did promise, didn't I? You did. Elva moved to the fireplace, where she'd prepared kindling earlier. But first, you need to eat. You can't heal properly on an empty stomach. She'd brought supplies from her own meager stores, dried meat, hard bread, a few withered apples. It wasn't much, but it was all she could take, without raising suspicion. As she worked to get a small fire going, she felt Mitchell's eyes on her, tracking her every movement. You're good at this, he observed. Taking care of people. It's what Omegas do. We serve. The words came out more bitter than she'd intended. Is that what you want? To serve? Elva paused, the question catching her off guard. No one had ever asked her what she wanted. I don't know what I want. I've never been allowed to want anything. Everyone wants something. She turned to face him, the firelight casting dancing shadows across her face. What do you want, Mitchell? His jaw tightened. Peace. Freedom. A chance to be someone other than who I was born to be. He laughed, a hollow sound. Impossible things. Tell me, Elva said, settling on the floor by the now crackling fire. Tell me who you were born to be. Mitchell was silent for so long that Elva thought he might refuse. But then he took a deep breath, his hands clenching into fists on his lap. My full name, he began slowly, is Mitchell James Holland. My father was Alpha King James Holland, of the Northern Territories. My mother was Queen Luna Catherine Holland, of the Moonstone line. Elva's world tilted sideways. Alpha King, she repeated faintly. Your royalty was, Mitchell's voice was hard. I was the Crown Prince, heir to the largest pack alliance in North America, next in line to rule over 47 packs and more than 50,000 wolves. That's impossible. Elva shook her head, trying to process this. The Crown Prince disappeared 8 years ago. Everyone knows that story. He abandoned his responsibilities, rejected his destiny. They searched for him for years, before declaring him dead, Mitchell finished. Yes, I know. I made sure they would. I had to disappear completely. Had to become nobody. Why? The question came out as a whisper. Why would you walk away from that? Mitchell's eyes grew distant, haunted. Because I couldn't be what they needed me to be. Because the weight of that crown was crushing me. Because... His voice cracked. Because I wasn't strong enough. Elva moved closer, drawn by the raw pain in his voice. What happened? My father died when I was 19. Mitchell's hands were shaking now. A challenge gone wrong. He was Alpha King, the strongest wolf in the territories, and some upstart beta thought he could take the crown by force. My father won the fight, but he was poisoned. Wolfsbane in the wound. He lasted 3 days before. I'm so sorry. The crown should have passed to me immediately. That's tradition. That's law. But I was young, untested. The Council of Alphas questioned my strength. Half of them wanted to support me. Half wanted to challenge me for the throne. Mitchell's voice grew bitter. My own pack was divided. Some saw me as my father's worthy successor. Others saw me as a weak boy playing at being king. That doesn't make you weak, Elva said softly. That makes you human. I'm not human. I'm a wolf. And wolves follow strength. Mitchell looked at her, his amber eyes blazing. I spent 2 years trying to hold the alliance together. 2 years of political maneuvering. Of proving myself over and over. Of watching packs I was supposed to protect tear each other apart because they didn't respect my authority. I wasn't my father. I couldn't command the same loyalty, the same fear. So you left. I ran away like a coward. The self-loathing in his voice was palpable. The night before my coronation ceremony, I shifted and ran. Disappeared into the wilderness. Became a rogue. I told myself I was doing it for the good of the alliance, that they needed a stronger king, that I was making a noble sacrifice. But you were really just scared, Elva said. Not unkindly. Mitchell flinched. Yes. I was terrified. Of failing. Of being challenged and killed. Of becoming another corpse in a long line of alphas who couldn't hold their throne. So I became nobody. Just another lone wolf, wandering from territory to territory, living in the shadows. For 8 years. For 8 years, Mitchell confirmed. I thought I could stay hidden forever. Thought I could live out my days in peace, but then what? Mitchell's expression grew grim. Then someone figured out who I am. Someone who wants to use me. Or kill me. I'm not sure which. Elva's blood ran cold. The wolves who attacked you. They weren't ordinary rogues. They were trained, coordinated. They knew exactly who I was and what I was worth. Mitchell touched the bandages on his chest. These weren't random attacks. They were trying to capture me. When I fought back too hard, they settled for trying to kill me instead. Who sent them? I don't know. But whoever it is, they have resources. Power. The ability to track a wolf who's been hiding for 8 years. Mitchell's jaw clenched. And if they found me, they might find you too. That's why you need to leave, Elva. While you still can. No. The word came out fierce, certain. We're mates. I'm not abandoning you. You don't understand what you're saying. Mitchell leaned forward, desperation in his eyes. If people find out who I am, if they know I have a mate, they'll use you against me. They'll hurt you to get to me. You'll become a target. I'm already a target just for being with you, Elva pointed out. Whether you're a rogue or a king, my pack will kill me for harboring you. At least if you're a king, we have a fighting chance. A fighting chance at what? At survival. At building a life together. Elva moved to sit beside him on the cot, taking his hand. You can't run forever, Mitchell. Eventually, your past catches up. Maybe it's time to stop running. You want me to reclaim the throne? Mitchell looked at her like she'd lost her mind. Elva, I walked away from that responsibility for a reason. I'm not strong enough. You survived 8 years as a lone wolf, Elva interrupted. Do you know how rare that is? Most lone wolves go mad within months. But you kept your sanity. Your humanity. You found ways to survive without a pack bond, without support. That takes incredible strength. That's not the same as being a king, isn't it? Elva squeezed his hand. You're not the scared 19-year-old boy who ran away anymore. You're 30. You've lived. You've suffered. You've learned. Maybe now you're ready." Mitchell stared at her, something shifting in his expression. "You really believe that?" "I believe you're stronger than you think you are. I believe the goddess doesn't make mistakes with mate bonds. And I believe—" Elva took a breath, letting herself be vulnerable. "I believe we're stronger together than apart." For a long moment, Mitchell just looked at her. Then, slowly, he raised his free hand to cup her face, his touch gentle despite his calluses. "You're extraordinary, Elva Owens," he murmured, "an Omega who faces down kings without flinching." "I'm flinching on the inside," Elva admitted, "but I learned a long time ago not to show fear. The wolves who can hurt you are always watching for weakness." Mitchell's thumb traced her cheekbone. "Who hurt you? Tell me their names." The protective growl in his voice made her wolf preen with satisfaction. "It doesn't matter. That was before. This is now. It matters to me." Before Elva could respond, a sound outside made them both freeze. Footsteps. Multiple sets, moving through the forest with purpose. "The hunting party," Mitchell breathed, already trying to stand despite his injuries. "They've expanded the search grid." Elva moved to the window, peering through the grime. In the moonlight, she could see shapes moving between the trees. 6 wolves. They were in human form, carrying weapons, silver-tipped spears and arrows that could kill even the strongest wolf. "We need to go," she whispered urgently. "Now." "Where?" "They're surrounding us." Elva's mind raced. The cabin had only one entrance, no back door. The windows were too small to climb through quickly. If the hunters decided to search the cabin, then she remembered. The old root cellar. This way. She grabbed Mitchell's arm, helping him to the far corner of the cabin, where a threadbare rug covered the floor. Beneath it was a trapdoor she'd discovered years ago, ancient, nearly invisible, leading to a small cellar that had once been used for storing food. Together, they heaved the trapdoor open, revealing a dark space below. It smelled of earth and rot, but it was shelter. "Get down there," Elva hissed. "I'll cover the door." "What about you?" "I'll hide separately. If they find one of us, at least the other has a chance." She pushed him toward the opening. "Go." Mitchell hesitated, his eyes searching hers. Then, in a movement so quick she barely registered it, he pulled her close and kissed her, a brief, desperate press of lips that sent electricity racing through her veins. "Stay alive," he commanded. "That's an order from your king." Then he dropped into the cellar, and Elva slammed the trapdoor shut, covering it with the rug just as the cabin door burst open. Timothy Marsh stood in the doorway, his beta power radiating like heat. Behind him, 3 other warriors filed in: Donald Washburn, Alfonso Greer, and Sammy Gentry. All armed, all deadly. Elva pressed herself against the wall, trying to look small, submissive, everything an Omega should be. Timothy's eyes found her immediately, and his expression shifted from alert to confused to angry in rapid succession. "Elva." His voice was sharp. "What the hell are you doing here?" Elva's mind went blank. She had no prepared excuse, no reasonable explanation for why an Omega would be in an abandoned cabin at the edge of pack territory in the middle of the night. She opened her mouth, desperately trying to form words, when salvation came from an unexpected source. "I asked her to meet me here." The voice came from the doorway behind Timothy, smooth and feminine. Karina Bright stepped into the cabin, her golden hair gleaming in the moonlight, her expression serene. Timothy turned to his future mate, confusion evident. "Karina?" "What?" "I needed Elva's help with something private," Karina said smoothly, moving to stand beside Timothy. Her eyes met Elva's, and there was a warning there, sharp and clear. "Women's matters. Nothing that concerns you, darling." Timothy looked between them, clearly not buying it. "In an abandoned cabin? In the middle of our hunt?" The hunt was becoming tiresome, and I needed fresh air away from all that masculine posturing. Karina waved her hand dismissively. "Elva was kind enough to accompany me. You know how I hate being alone in the forest." It was a terrible lie. Everyone knew Karina Bright was never kind to Omegas, never needed help with anything, and certainly never ventured into the wilderness without a full escort. But Timothy, like most males faced with women's matters, clearly didn't want to press the issue. "Fine," he said, though suspicion lingered in his voice. "But you shouldn't be out here. We're hunting a dangerous rogue. It's not safe." "Then escort us back to the pack house," Karina said sweetly. "Elva and I were just finishing up anyway. Weren't we, Elva?" Elva nodded mutely, not trusting her voice. She could feel Mitchell beneath her feet, hidden in the cellar, doubtlessly able to hear every word. The other warriors were searching the cabin, overturning the table, checking behind the minimal furniture. "There's no one here," Donald reported. "Just dust and mouse droppings." "Then let's move on," Timothy said. "The rogue couldn't have gotten far with those injuries. We'll expand the search to the—" He stopped mid-sentence, his nose lifting to scent the air. Elva's heart nearly stopped. Had he caught Mitchell's scent? Had her herb mixture failed? "What is it?" Alfonso asked, hand moving to his weapon. "Nothing." Timothy shook his head. "Thought I caught something. But it's gone now. Just old rot and decay." Elva sagged with relief. The herbs had worked. Barely. But they'd worked. "Satisfied?" Karina asked archly. "Can we go now? This place is filthy, and I'd rather not ruin this dress." Timothy nodded, gesturing for his warriors to exit. As they filed out, Karina caught Elva's arm in a grip that looked gentle but was iron hard. "Come along, Omega," she said sweetly. "We have much to discuss." Elva had no choice but to follow, leaving Mitchell hidden in the cellar, alone and vulnerable. As they walked through the forest back toward pack territory, surrounded by warriors who were still searching for the wolf she loved, Elva's mind raced with questions. Why had Karina helped her? What did the Alpha's daughter want? And what price would Elva have to pay for this unexpected salvation? Beside her, Karina's grip tightened, and when she spoke, her voice was barely audible beneath the sounds of the hunting party. "You have secrets, Omega. I can smell them on you." Karina's smile was sharp as a blade. "And starting tomorrow, those secrets belong to me." Elva said nothing. She just walked, each step taking her further from her hidden mate, and deeper into whatever trap Karina had laid. Behind them, in the forgotten cabin, Mitchell Holland, the lost Alpha King, waited in darkness, listening to his mate's footsteps fade away, powerless to protect her. The game had changed, and they were both pawns in something far more dangerous than either of them had realized. Chapter 4. The Alpha's Daughter's Game. The walk back to pack territory felt like a death march. Elva kept her head down, her posture submissive, every instinct screaming at her to run, but Karina's hand remained locked around her arm, a deceptively gentle prison. The warriors spread out around them, still searching, still hunting, oblivious to the fact that they'd been mere feet from their quarry. Timothy led the way, his powerful form cutting through the undergrowth with ease. Occasionally, he'd glance back at Karina with something soft in his eyes. Affection, perhaps, or possessiveness, the look of a male who'd secured a valuable mate. Karina returned those looks with perfect smiles, playing her role flawlessly. But her grip on Elva never loosened. It wasn't until they reached the edge of pack territory, where the formal grounds began and the wild forest ended, that Karina finally spoke again. "Timothy, darling," she called out sweetly, "would you mind giving Elva and me a moment? I need to discuss some personal matters with her before we return." Timothy turned, frowning. "Karina, we should get you back to the pack house. It's late, and your father—" "My father knows I can take care of myself," Karina interrupted smoothly. "Besides, we're on pack lands now, perfectly safe. We'll be right behind you." Timothy clearly didn't like it, but he also knew better than to argue with the Alpha's daughter in front of his warriors. He nodded curtly. 5 minutes. Then I'm coming back for you." "Of course, darling." The warriors moved on, disappearing into the darkness. The moment they were out of sight, Karina's perfect smile dropped like a mask, revealing something far more dangerous underneath. She released Elva's arm and stepped back, her green eyes studying Elva with unnerving intensity. "So," Karina said quietly, "are you going to tell me what you were really doing in that cabin? Or do I need to drag it out of you?" Elva's mind raced, searching for a plausible lie. "I told you. You asked me to meet you there. Don't insult my intelligence, Omega. Karina's voice was cold steel. I saved you back there. Because it served my purposes. Not because I care about you. Now, you're going to tell me the truth. Or I'm going to march back to that cabin with every warrior in this pack, and tear it apart board by board until we find what you're hiding. Elva's blood ran cold. I don't know what you mean. You were protecting something. Someone. Karina circled her slowly, like a predator assessing prey. You had herbs all over your hands, wolfsbane, sage, thistle, the kind of combination used to mask scent. Your clothes smell like blood, but you're not injured. And you have the look of someone who's been awake for far too long, watching over something precious. Elva said nothing. What could she say? Karina had seen through everything. Here's what I think happened, Karina continued, her voice almost conversational. You found the rogue everyone's hunting. You should have reported him immediately, but you didn't. Why? Because you're stupid and soft-hearted? Possibly. Or because... She paused, leaning in close enough that Elva could smell her expensive perfume. Because he's your mate. Elva's sharp intake of breath was all the confirmation Karina needed. Goddess above, Karina breathed, genuine surprise flickering across her features. I was mostly guessing, but it's actually true. An Omega mated to a rogue. That's... She laughed, a sound without humor. That's either the worst luck in history, or the cruelest joke the moon goddess has ever played. Please, Elva whispered, abandoning pretense. Please don't tell anyone. They'll kill him. Of course they will. He's a rogue. That's what happens to rogues. Karina tilted her head. Unless he's not just a rogue. Unless there's something special about him that would make an Omega risk everything to protect him. Elva's silence was answer enough. Karina's eyes widened slightly. What is he? A former alpha? A wanted criminal? Someone with information that could... She stopped, something shifting in her expression. Oh, this is better than I thought. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Karina smiled. And it was a terrible thing. You know exactly what you found. And I know you're never going to tell me. Which is fine. I don't need you to tell me. I just need you to understand the position you're in. What position is that? The position of someone who owes me a debt. Karina stepped back, smoothing her dress. I saved you tonight. Lied to my future mate. Put my reputation on the line. Gave you time to hide your precious rogue. That's worth something. Don't you think? Elva's stomach sank. What do you want? Your obedience, your silence, your complete cooperation. Karina's voice was matter-of-fact. Starting tomorrow, you belong to me. You'll do what I say, when I say it, without question. In return, I'll keep your secret. I won't tell anyone about your mate, or that cabin, or any of it. And if I refuse, then I'll tell my father everything, and your mate will be dead by sunset tomorrow. Karina examined her nails casually. Your choice, really. Servitude or death. I know which I'd pick. Elva wanted to fight back, to refuse, to tell Karina exactly what she could do with her threats. But Mitchell's face flashed in her mind, wounded, vulnerable, trusting her to keep him safe. Why? Elva asked quietly. Why would you protect me? You hate Omegas. I don't hate Omegas. I simply don't think about them at all, which is worse. Karina's smile softened slightly, becoming almost genuine. But you're interesting. An Omega with a spine. An Omega willing to commit treason for love. That's rare. And I have a feeling you're going to be very useful to me. Useful how? That's for me to know. Karina glanced toward the pack house, where lights were beginning to appear in windows. Dawn was approaching. For now, just understand that we have an arrangement. I keep your secret. You do as I say. Simple. Nothing about this is simple. No, Karina agreed. But it's better than the alternative. Now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to go back to the Omega quarters and rest. Tomorrow you'll report to my chambers at noon. I have tasks for you. And tonight, when it's safe, you can sneak back to your cabin and tend to your wounded wolf. But Elva. Her voice hardened. If he becomes a liability, if his presence threatens this pack or my father's position, I will not hesitate to expose him. My loyalty is to Silver Creek, not to your romance. Understood? Elva nodded mutely. What choice did she have? Good. Karina's perfect smile returned. Oh, and one more thing. Whatever that wolf of yours is running from, it's going to catch up eventually. When it does, you make sure I know about it first. I want to be prepared for whatever storm you're bringing to our doorstep. With that, Karina turned and walked away, her movements graceful and unhurried. She looked like she'd simply taken a pleasant evening stroll, not like she'd just blackmailed someone into servitude. Elva stood alone in the darkness, trembling with a mixture of fear and relief. She'd bought time for Mitchell, for herself, for whatever this impossible situation was becoming. But she'd also made a deal with someone who could destroy everything with a single word. The question was, could she trust Karina to keep her word? The Omega quarters were dark when Elva finally slipped inside. Most of the other Omegas were asleep, their soft breathing filling the cramped space. Elva made her way to her bunk as quietly as possible, every muscle in her body screaming with exhaustion. Elva. The whisper came from the bunk beside hers. Janine was awake, her round face concerned in the dim light. You said you were sick, Janine continued softly. But you've been gone all day. I was worried. I'm fine, Elva whispered back. Just needed air, space, time to think. Janine studied her for a long moment. You're lying. You've never been good at lying, Elva. Janine, please, don't ask questions I can't answer. Is it about him? Janine's voice was barely audible. The rogue everyone's hunting? Elva's heart stopped. What are you talking about? I felt it. 3 days ago, around the same time you started acting strange. A pull. Janine's eyes were sympathetic. You found your mate, didn't you? And he's the wolf they want to kill. Elva couldn't speak, couldn't confirm or deny, could barely breathe. It's okay, Janine said gently. I won't tell anyone. I know what it's like to have a secret you'd die to protect. Janine. My mate died 6 years ago, Janine said quietly. Before I could reach him. He was in a pack 3 territories over, and by the time I made the journey, he'd been killed in a challenge. I never even got to meet him properly. Never got to see if the bond could have been something real. Tears pricked Elva's eyes. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Nobody knows. I'm an Omega. Nobody asks about our losses. Janine reached out, squeezing Elva's hand. But I'm telling you now so you understand. If you've found your mate, don't let anything not pack politics, not hierarchy, not fear keep you from him. The bond is sacred. It's worth fighting for. Even if fighting for it destroys everything? Especially then. Janine's smile was sad but genuine. Love is supposed to be disruptive. It's supposed to challenge the way things are. Otherwise, what's the point? Elva squeezed back, grateful beyond words for this unexpected ally. Thank you. Just promise me you'll be careful. Whatever you're doing, whoever he is, be careful. The pack is on high alert. One wrong move and… I know. Elva pulled her hand back, settling onto her bunk. I know. They lay in silence for a while, both pretending to sleep. But Elva's mind was racing, planning her next move. She needed to get back to Mitchell, needed to make sure he was safe, that the hunting party hadn't circled back to the cabin. But more than that, she needed to figure out what to do next. Mitchell couldn't stay hidden forever. Eventually, someone would find him, and when they did, Elva's hand drifted to her chest, where she could feel the mate bond humming beneath her skin. It was stronger now, more insistent. Mitchell was awake, probably worried about her. I'm coming back, she thought, hoping somehow the bond would carry the message. Just hold on a little longer. It was nearly dawn when Elva finally managed to slip away again. She'd waited until the morning shift of Omegas left for their duties, then claimed she needed to gather herbs from the forest. It was a weak excuse, but no one questioned Omegas who volunteered for unpleasant tasks. The forest was coming alive with birdsong as she made her way back to the cabin. Every shadow made her jump, every sound made her freeze. The hunting party could be anywhere. Patrols would be doubled after last night. But she made it to the cabin without incident. The door hung open slightly, she'd left it that way in her hurry to leave. Heart pounding, she pushed inside. Mitchell? No answer. The cabin was empty. the cot stripped of its blankets. For a terrifying moment, Elva thought he'd been found, taken, killed while she was gone. Then she heard a soft sound from the cellar. She pulled up the trapdoor to find Mitchell huddled in the darkness below, his amber eyes reflecting the morning light like a wolf's. "Thank the goddess," he breathed. "I heard you leave with them. I thought, I'm fine." Elva climbed down into the cellar, pulling the door shut above them. In the darkness, she could barely see him, but she could feel the warmth of his body, the rapid beat of his heart. "But we have a problem." "Just one?" Mitchell's attempt at humor fell flat. "Karina Bright knows about you. Not who you are, but that you exist. That you're my mate." Mitchell swore quietly. "The Alpha's daughter. She's blackmailing me," Elva continued. "She'll keep our secret if I do what she says. Otherwise she'll tell her father everything." "No." Mitchell grabbed her shoulders in the darkness. "No, Elva. You can't put yourself at her mercy. People like that, they'll use you until there's nothing left. What choice do I have? If she tells, you die. Then I die." Mitchell's voice cracked with desperation. "I've been running for 8 years, Elva. Maybe it's time I stopped. Maybe it's time I faced whatever's coming instead of dragging you down with me." "Don't talk like that." Elva found his face in the darkness, cupping it between her hands. "We're going to figure this out. Together. That's what mates do. Mates protect each other. And I can't protect you like this." The anguish in his voice was palpable. "I'm weak, wounded, hiding in a hole in the ground while you risk everything for me. What kind of mate does that make me? What kind of king? The kind who's still learning how to be strong," Elva said firmly. "Mitchell, you spent 8 years running because you thought you weren't enough. But maybe you weren't enough because you were alone. Maybe you needed someone to be strong with you instead of for you." Mitchell was quiet for a long moment. Then, in the darkness, she felt his forehead rest against hers. "How did I get so lucky?" he whispered. "How did a broken king end up with the strongest wolf I've ever met? I'm not strong. I'm an Omega. You're the strongest person I know." Mitchell's hands found hers, holding tight. "And I promise you, Elva Owens, I'm going to become worthy of you. I'm going to figure out how to protect you, how to give you the life you deserve. Even if it means facing everything I ran from." "Then we face it together," Elva said. "No more running, no more hiding. We figure out who's hunting you, why they want you, and how to stop them. And then, Elva smiled in the darkness. "And then you reclaim your throne. And I become a queen. How does that sound?" Mitchell laughed, the sound surprised and genuine. "Like the most insane plan I've ever heard." "Good. Because I'm tired of sensible. Sensible never got me anything but pain." They sat in the darkness of the cellar, holding each other, 2 broken wolves planning an impossible future. Outside, the pack continued its hunt. Karina waited with her demands. Enemies known and unknown circled closer. But in that moment, hidden away from the world, they had each other. And for now, that was enough. "We should get you out of here," Elva finally said. "Find somewhere safer. The hunting parties are going to expand their search. This cabin won't stay hidden forever." "Where would we go?" "I don't know yet, but I'll figure something out." Elva squeezed his hands. "For now, you need to stay here. Rest. Heal. I have to go back, or they'll notice I'm gone too long." "When will I see you again?" "Tonight. After everyone's asleep. I'll bring more supplies, better bandages." Elva pulled away reluctantly. "And maybe some answers about who's hunting you. If Karina wants my obedience, she can start by helping us." "Elva, don't antagonize her. She could what? Make my life worse?" Elva laughed bitterly. "I'm an Omega hiding a wanted wolf while being blackmailed by the Alpha's daughter. It doesn't get much worse." Mitchell pulled her back, kissing her fiercely. It was different from their first kiss, not desperate, but determined. A promise sealed in touch. "Stay safe," he commanded against her lips. "Come back to me. Always." Elva promised. Then she climbed out of the cellar, covered the door, and slipped back into the forest. Behind her, Mitchell Holland, the lost Alpha King, waited in darkness, his fate resting in the hands of an Omega who refused to let him fall. And ahead of her, in the pack house, Karina Bright waited with demands that would change everything. The game was accelerating. The pieces were moving into place, and Elva was done being a pawn. It was time to play. Chapter 5: The Price of Secrets. Elva stood outside Karina Bright's private chambers, her fist raised to knock, her heart hammering against her ribs. The clock in the hallway showed exactly noon. She was precisely on time, just as commanded. The door opened before she could knock. Punctual, Karina observed, stepping aside to let Elva enter. Good. I despised tardiness. Elva had never been inside the Alpha's daughter's chambers before. Omegas didn't venture into this part of the pack house unless summoned for specific duties, always supervised, always temporary. To be here alone with Karina felt like stepping into a trap. The room was exactly what Elva expected. Spacious, luxurious, decorated in shades of cream and gold. A massive 4-poster bed dominated one wall, draped in silk that probably cost more than Elva would earn in her lifetime. Antique furniture gleamed with polish. Fresh flowers, real flowers, not the wild ones. Elva gathered from the forest, sat in crystal vases on every surface. It was beautiful. It was suffocating. Sit, Karina commanded, gesturing to a velvet chair near the window. Elva sat, perching on the edge like she might need to flee at any moment. Karina settled onto a chaise lounge across from her, arranging her skirts with practiced elegance. So, Karina began, studying Elva with those sharp green eyes. Let's discuss the terms of our arrangement in more detail. You said you wanted my obedience, my silence, my cooperation. Elva kept her voice neutral. What exactly does that mean? It means you work for me now. Not as an Omega serving the pack, but as my personal assistant. Karina smiled slightly. You'll attend to my needs, run my errands, and most importantly, you'll tell me everything I want to know about your mysterious mate. No. The word came out before Elva could stop it. Karina's eyebrows rose. Excuse me? You said you'd keep my secret if I obeyed you. That was the deal. You never said I had to betray him. Elva met Karina's gaze directly, years of submission warring with her newfound defiance. I won't give you information you can use against him. For a long moment, Karina just stared at her. Then, surprisingly, she laughed, a genuine sound of amusement. Goddess, you really do have a spine. I was starting to wonder if I'd imagined it last night. Karina leaned forward, her expression shifting to something almost respectful. Fine. I won't ask you to betray him. But I need to know enough to protect myself. If his presence here puts this pack at risk, I have a right to know what's coming. Why do you care? Elva asked. You could have exposed us both last night. You still could. Why are you protecting us? Karina was quiet for a moment, something unreadable flickering across her face. Because I'm tired of playing the perfect daughter. The perfect mate. The perfect future Luna. She stood, walking to the window to look out over the pack grounds. Do you know what it's like to have your entire life planned out before you're old enough to understand what life even means? No, Elva admitted. But I know what it's like to have no choices at all. Then we're not so different, are we? Karina glanced back at her. I'm marrying Timothy Marsh in 6 days. It's a good match, politically advantageous. Strengthens the alliance between Alpha and Beta families. Produces strong bloodlines. Everyone's thrilled. But you're not. I didn't say that. Karina's voice was careful. Timothy is fine, handsome, strong, loyal, everything a mate should be. But he's not your true mate. Karina flinched almost imperceptibly. The moon goddess doesn't always bless us with convenient mate bonds, Elva. Sometimes we have to make practical choices instead of romantic ones. Did you meet him? Elva asked softly. Your true mate? Once, 3 years ago. Karina's hand touched the window glass, her reflection ghostly. At a gathering of allied packs. We locked eyes across a crowded room. And I felt it, that pull, that certainty. He was from a smaller pack, a lower rank. Nobody important. Just a warrior with kind eyes and a laugh that made my heart race. What happened? Nothing happened. I turned away, pretended I hadn't felt it. Married my duty instead. Karina's voice was hollow. He probably doesn't even remember me. Probably found another mate by now. someone who wasn't too much of a coward to follow the bond. Elva felt an unexpected surge of sympathy for this woman she'd always seen as her opposite. "You're not a coward, aren't I?" Karina turned back to face her. "I let duty crush the one chance at real happiness I might have had. You, an Omega with nothing to lose and everything to fear, are fighting for your mate, while I, an Alpha's daughter with every advantage, chose the safe path. Which of us is braver?" "It's not about bravery," Elva said. "It's about circumstances. You had responsibilities, expectations, and you don't?" Karina interrupted. "You think your circumstances aren't impossibly difficult? You're risking execution for a rogue you barely know. That's not circumstance, Elva. That's choice. You chose him over safety. I chose safety over love. Don't make excuses for my cowardice." They sat in uncomfortable silence, two she-wolves on opposite ends of the hierarchy, discovering they had more in common than either had realized. "So that's why you're helping me," Elva said finally. "Because I'm doing what you couldn't." "Perhaps," Karina returned to her chair. "Or perhaps I'm just bored, and you're the most interesting thing that's happened in years. Does it matter? I suppose not." "Good, then let's discuss practical matters." Karina's voice became businesslike. "Your mate is wounded, hiding in a location I've agreed not to reveal. But he can't stay there forever. The hunting parties are expanding their search grid. Beta Riley is obsessed with finding this rogue. Says it's a matter of pack security. Timothy's made it his personal mission to track him down before the mating ceremony." Elva's stomach clenched. 6 days. 6 days, Karina confirmed. "After the ceremony, Timothy becomes my mate, and the pack's future beta. His authority will expand significantly. If he hasn't found your wolf by then, he'll have the resources to search every inch of pack territory, repeatedly. Until he does. Then we need to move him. Get him somewhere safe." "Where?" Karina asked practically. "He's wounded. He's a rogue no pack will take him in. You can't hide him in pack territory forever. And if you run with him, you'll both be marked as rogues. Hunted by every pack in the region. There has to be something. There might be." Karina leaned forward, lowering her voice even though they were alone. "But you're not going to like it. Tell me." "There's a gathering tomorrow night. Representatives from 3 neighboring packs are coming to discuss territory boundaries and trade agreements. My father is hosting it at the pack house, a big formal dinner, lots of political posturing, the usual." Karina's eyes gleamed. It would be the perfect time to slip away unnoticed. Everyone will be focused on the guests. Security will be concentrated at the pack house. The borders will be less guarded. "You want us to run during the gathering?" "I want you to have an opportunity," Karina corrected. "What you do with it is your choice. But if your mate is going to leave pack territory, tomorrow night is your best chance." Elva's mind raced. It could work. If they moved during the gathering, if they planned carefully. "Where would we go?" "That depends on who he is and what he's running from." Karina tilted her head. "And that's where you need to trust me, Elva. I can't help you properly if I don't know what I'm helping you escape. I told you, I won't betray him. I'm not asking you to betray him. I'm asking you to trust me." Karina's voice softened. "Look, I know I'm not exactly trustworthy. I know I've blackmailed you into this arrangement. But like it or not, we're allies now, and allies share information. Especially when that information could save both your lives." Elva chewed her lip, torn. Every instinct screamed not to trust Karina. But what choice did she have? Mitchell couldn't stay hidden forever, and Karina was right. Without knowing what they were dealing with, she couldn't help effectively. "He's not just a rogue," Elva said finally. "He's someone important, someone powerful people want dead or captured." "How powerful?" "Very." Elva met Karina's eyes. "And that's all I'm saying until I talk to him. He deserves to know I'm sharing this information. He deserves to have a say." Karina considered this, then nodded. "Fair enough. Bring him to the old stone mill tonight. Midnight. I'll meet you there alone." "The mill?" Elva's eyes widened. "That's deep in pack territory. If anyone sees, no one will see. It's been abandoned for years, and everyone will be preparing for tomorrow's gathering. Besides, Karina smiled slightly. I need to meet this wolf who inspired an Omega to commit treason. I need to know if he's worth all this trouble. And if you decide he's not, then I'll still help you escape tomorrow night. I've already committed to this path, Elva. I'm not going to back out now. Karina stood, signaling the conversation was ending. Midnight. The stone mill. Don't be late. Elva rose on shaky legs. Why are you really doing this, Karina? And don't give me the bored daughter excuse. There's something else. Karina walked to the door, her hand on the handle. For a moment, Elva thought she wouldn't answer. Then she spoke. So quietly Elva almost missed it. Because 3 years ago, I let duty kill my chance at happiness. And I've regretted it every single day since. Karina opened the door. I won't let the same thing happen to someone else. Not when I have the power to stop it. Before Elva could respond, Karina's expression shifted back to its usual coolness. Now go. I have preparations to make. And Elva, she grabbed Elva's wrist as she passed. Be careful. My father's beta has dogs tracking the forest now. Real dogs, not just wolves. They can't be fooled by herb mixtures. Elva's blood ran cold. Dogs. That changed everything. Thank you for the warning. Don't thank me yet. Karina released her. We're not safe until you're both far away from here. Remember that. Elva spent the afternoon in a state of barely controlled panic. Dogs. Beta Riley had brought in tracking dogs. The kind trained to hunt rogues, bred to be relentless. She went through her duties mechanically, helping prepare food for tomorrow's gathering, scrubbing floors, folding linens. All the while, her mind was working frantically. She needed to warn Mitchell, needed to get him away from the cabin before those dogs picked up his scent. But she also needed to convince him to meet with Karina. And that was going to be difficult. The afternoon dragged into evening. Elva forced herself to eat dinner with the other Omegas, to participate in their quiet conversations, to appear normal. Janine kept shooting her concerned looks, but didn't press. Finally, mercifully, night fell. Elva waited until the Omega quarters were dark and silent before slipping out. The moon was full tonight, a hunter's moon. Bright enough to see by, but also bright enough to be seen. She'd have to be careful. The forest seemed more menacing in the moonlight, every shadow a potential threat. Elva moved quickly but quietly, using the tricks she'd learned over years of being hunted. Stay off the paths. Use streams to mask your scent. Pause frequently to listen. She was halfway to the cabin when she heard it, the distant baying of dogs. Her heart stopped. They were hunting, tonight, now. Elva ran. Branches tore at her clothes, roots tried to trip her, but she didn't slow down. She had to reach Mitchell first, had to warn him, get him out, lead him to safety. The cabin appeared through the trees. The door hung open. Had she left it that way? She couldn't remember. Everything was chaos, panic, fear. Mitchell, she hissed, bursting inside. Mitchell, we have to. The cabin was empty. No Mitchell. No sign of him. Even the cellar was empty. The trapdoor standing open. For a terrible moment, Elva thought he'd been taken. Then she saw the note, scratched on the wooden floor in charcoal. Heard dogs. Moving to the cliffs. Follow the stream east. The cliffs. The eastern cliffs overlooked the valley, a sheer drop of 300 feet to the rocky river below. Why would Mitchell? Understanding hit like a physical blow. The cliffs were defensible. If he was cornered, he could fight with his back protected. Or he could jump, end this before they could capture him. No, Elva breathed. No, no, no. She ran again, following the stream east like Mitchell's note said. Behind her, the baying of the dogs was getting closer. How much time did she have? 5 minutes? Less? The trees thinned as she approached the cliffs. Moonlight painted everything in silver and shadow. And there, at the edge of the precipice, stood Mitchell. He'd shifted to his wolf form, a massive creature with dark fur and amber eyes that glowed in the moonlight. He was beautiful. Terrifying. Every inch an alpha. Even wounded and alone. When he saw her, he shifted back, his human form appearing in that seamless transformation only powerful wolves could manage. Elva. Relief and anguish warred in his expression. You shouldn't be here. They're close. You need to run. I'm not leaving you. Elva reached him, grabbing his hands. Karina wants to help. She wants to meet you tonight. At the stone mill. She has a plan to get us out during tomorrow's gathering. Karina Bright wants to help? Mitchell's laugh was bitter. The Alpha's daughter? Elva. That's a trap. It's not. Elva stopped, hearing something. Voices. Close. Too close. Go. Mitchell pushed her toward the trees. Please, Elva. If they find us together. Over here. I found the trail. The shout came from their left. Footsteps, multiple sets, crashing through the underbrush. The dogs were going wild now. Their baying frenzied. Mitchell's eyes met Elva's, and in them she saw resignation, acceptance. I love you, he said quickly. I know it's too soon, I know we barely know each other, but I need you to know. Don't. Elva pulled him close, kissing him fiercely. Don't you dare say goodbye. We're getting out of this, both of us. There's no way out. There's always a way out. Elva pulled back, her mind racing. Then she saw the narrow ledge running along the cliff face, barely visible in the moonlight. Can you climb? In my condition? Barely. That'll have to be enough. Elva grabbed his hand, pulling him toward the ledge. Trust me. The hunting party burst from the trees just as they swung over the cliff's edge. Beta Riley, Timothy Marsh, Donald Washburn, Alfonso Greer, at least 20 wolves, all armed, all looking for blood. There! Someone shouted. But Elva and Mitchell were already climbing, following the narrow ledge along the cliff face. It was treacherous, barely wide enough for one person, crumbling in places. One wrong step meant death. Behind them the hunters reached the cliff's edge. Elva heard shouting, arguments about how to follow, whether to risk the climb. They'll come around the long way. Mitchell panted beside her. Block off the other end of this ledge. We'll be trapped. No, we won't. Elva pointed ahead, where the ledge widened into a small cave, barely visible in the cliff face. In there. We can hide until they give up. They made it to the cave, just as the first hunters started onto the ledge behind them. The cave was shallow, barely more than an indentation in the rock. But it was dark. If they stayed quiet. Stayed still. Mitchell pulled Elva against him. Both of them pressed into the deepest part of the cave. His heart thundered against her back. Or maybe that was her heart. She couldn't tell anymore where she ended and he began. The sounds of the hunters grew louder. Wolves were following the ledge, moving carefully but determinedly. Any moment now, they'd reach the cave. Would spot them hiding. Elva closed her eyes, waiting for the inevitable discovery. Waiting for everything to end. Then, impossibly, a voice called out from the far end of the ledge. False trail. They're not here. I found tracks heading north. The hunters on the ledge stopped. Hesitated. You're sure? That was Beta Riley's voice. Suspicious. Positive, sir. Fresh tracks, still warm. They must have circled back. Elva's eyes snapped open. She knew that voice. Knew it well. Janine. Her friend was creating a diversion. Fall back, Beta Riley ordered. Follow those tracks. If this rogue thinks he can outsmart us. The sounds of retreat. The hunters leaving, following Janine's false trail away from the cliffs. Mitchell sagged against Elva, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Who was that? A friend. Elva's voice cracked. A friend who just saved our lives. They stayed in the cave for what felt like hours, making sure the hunters were truly gone. When they finally emerged, the moon was lower in the sky, dawn not far away. The stone mill, Elva said. We have to get there by midnight tomorrow. Karina's plan might be our only chance. Mitchell looked at her, this Omega who'd saved him repeatedly, who refused to give up even when everything seemed hopeless. You're remarkable, he said softly. You know that? I'm terrified, Elva admitted. But I'm not giving up. Not on us. Mitchell pulled her close, holding her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Tomorrow night. The stone mill. We meet your Alpha's daughter and find out if she's our salvation or our doom. Together, Elva said firmly. Together, Mitchell agreed. They climbed back up the cliff as dawn painted the sky pink and gold. Two wolves running out of time and places to hide, betting everything on an alliance with the last person they should trust. But sometimes, salvation came from the most unexpected sources. And sometimes, the only way forward was to stop running and face the danger head-on. Tomorrow night would determine which path they'd take. Tomorrow night everything would change. Chapter 6. The Stone Mill Meeting. The stone mill stood like a skeleton at the edge of pack territory. Its ancient walls crumbling, its water wheel long since rotted away. Moonlight streamed through gaps in the roof, creating patterns of light and shadow that made the whole structure feel like something from a dream or a nightmare. Elva and Mitchell approached from different directions, a precaution in case one of them was being followed. Elva had spent the entire day on edge, jumping at every sound, convinced that at any moment someone would realize what she was planning. But no one had questioned her. The pack was too focused on preparing for tonight's gathering, the one that would provide their cover for escape. The pack house was ablaze with light and activity, representatives from neighboring packs already arriving in expensive cars, dressed in formal attire that spoke of power and wealth. Meanwhile, Elva had slipped away to this forgotten place, to meet with two wolves who could either save her or destroy her. Mitchell materialized from the shadows near the mill's entrance, moving with the fluid grace of a predator despite his healing injuries. He looked better. The wounds had started to close. His color had returned, but there was a tension in his shoulders, a wariness in his eyes. "Are you sure about this?" he asked quietly as Elva reached him. "No, but we're out of options. We could run. Right now. Forget about Karina's plan, forget about the gathering. Just disappear into the wilderness." Elva touched his face gently. "And then what? Live as rogues forever? Always running, always hiding, never safe? That's not a life, Mitchell. That's just a slower way of dying." Before Mitchell could respond, a new voice cut through the darkness. How touching. The rogue and his omega, ready to sacrifice everything for love. Karina Bright stepped into the mill, dressed not in her usual finery but in dark, practical clothes. Her golden hair was pulled back, her face free of makeup. She looked younger this way. More human. More real. Mitchell's entire body went rigid, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Elva felt his power rising, the true power of an alpha, barely contained beneath his rogue exterior. "Easy," she murmured, placing a hand on his arm. "She's here to help. Is she?" Mitchell's eyes never left Karina. "Or is she here to confirm what her father suspects before she calls in the hunting party?" Karina raised an eyebrow, seemingly unbothered by the threat radiating from Mitchell. "If I wanted you captured, rogue, I would have brought warriors. The fact that I'm here alone should tell you something. It tells me you're confident you can handle us yourself." "Oh, I am." Karina's smile was sharp. "But I'm not here to fight. I'm here to talk, and to understand exactly what kind of storm Elva has brought to my doorstep." "Then talk," Mitchell said coldly, "but make it quick. Every moment we stand here is a moment we could be discovered." Karina moved deeper into the mill, to where a broken table still stood against one wall. She leaned against it casually, but Elva noticed the way she positioned herself. Exits clear, distance maintained. This was a woman who understood tactics. "Let's start with introductions," Karina said. "Real ones. I'm Karina Bright, daughter of Alpha Anthony Hutchins, future mate to Beta Timothy Marsh, and currently the only thing standing between you and a silver bullet. Your turn." Mitchell was silent, his jaw clenched. Elva could feel the war within him, the instinct to trust no one, to reveal nothing, fighting against the desperate need for an ally. Elva started, but Mitchell cut her off. "I'll tell her." He stepped forward, his posture straightening, and suddenly Elva saw it, the king beneath the rogue, the alpha beneath the wounded wolf. "My name is Mitchell James Holland. I'm the former crown prince of the Northern Territories, heir to the Holland line. The wolf your pack spent 8 years searching for, before declaring me dead." The silence that followed was deafening. Karina's expression shifted through a dozen emotions: shock, disbelief, understanding, calculation. When she finally spoke, her voice was carefully controlled. "The lost prince. Goddess above." She laughed, a sound without humor. Elva didn't just find a rogue. She found the biggest political bombshell in North America. "Do you have any idea what this means?" "I know exactly what it means," Mitchell said harshly. "It means if word gets out that I'm alive, Every power-hungry alpha in the territories will be hunting me. Some will want to force me back to the throne to use me as a puppet. Others will want me dead to prevent any claims to power. And a few will want to use me as leverage in whatever political games they're playing. Which is why you've been hiding, Karina said, understanding dawning. For 8 years, you've been nobody. Just another rogue. Beneath notice. Safe. Until someone figured out who I was. The wolves who attacked you. Karina's eyes narrowed. Who were they working for? I don't know. They were professionals, trained, coordinated. They knew who I was, knew my fighting style, knew my weaknesses. Mitchell's hand unconsciously touched his healing wounds. They weren't trying to kill me outright. They wanted to capture me alive. When I fought too hard, they changed tactics. Someone wants the crown prince, Karina said thoughtfully. But who? And why now, after all these years? That's what I'd like to know. Karina paced, her mind clearly working through possibilities. The Northern Territories have been unstable since you disappeared. 3 different alphas have claimed the throne in 8 years. Currently it's held by Alpha Pablo Pruitt of the Blackwater Pack, a vicious bastard who rules through fear and intimidation. He's made enemies of half the packs in the Alliance. I know. I've been keeping track. Mitchell's voice was tight. From a distance. If you suddenly reappeared, his claim would be illegitimate. You're the rightful heir. The packs loyal to the Holland line would rally to you. Karina stopped pacing, turning to face him directly. Pablo Pruitt has every reason to want you captured or killed. Captured, he could force you to publicly abdicate. Killed, he could claim you died heroically and cement his position as the legitimate successor. Or, Mitchell said slowly, someone who opposes Pruitt wants to use me to overthrow him. Install me as a puppet king while they pull the strings. Either way, you're a political asset. And assets don't get to make their own choices. Elva had been listening to this exchange with growing dread. So what do we do? If every side wants him, if there's nowhere safe, there's one place, Karina said quietly. One place where political alliances don't matter. Where tradition and pack law protect even the most wanted wolves. Mitchell's eyes widened with realization. The neutral grounds. The neutral grounds, Karina confirmed. Territory held by no pack. Governed by the old laws. Where all wolves are equal regardless of rank or history. It's where rogues go to find temporary sanctuary. Where exiled wolves can live without fear of being hunted. It's also 300 miles from here, Mitchell said. Through multiple pack territories. Across the human city. Past lands controlled by wolves who would love to claim the bounty on my head. Which is why you need my help. Karina pulled a folded map from her jacket, spreading it on the broken table. Tomorrow night, during the gathering, security will be focused on the pack house. The borders will have minimal patrols. I can create a distraction, something big enough to draw even more attention away from the perimeter. What kind of distraction? Elva asked. Karina's smile was wicked. Leave that to me. Just know that when it happens, you'll have maybe an hour or 2 at most before they realize you're gone and start hunting. You'll need to move fast, stay off the main paths, and avoid any pack territories. Mitchell studied the map, his expression grim. This route takes us through the Deadlands. That's unstable territory, claimed by multiple packs, but controlled by none. It's dangerous. It's also your best shot. The Deadlands are chaotic enough that you can slip through without being noticed. Once you're past them, you can follow the old human highway to the city limits, then take the underground passages to the neutral grounds. Underground passages? Elva looked at Karina in surprise. I didn't know those existed. Most wolves don't. They're remnants from when our ancestors had to hide from humans, tunnels and safe houses connecting major wolf territories. They're not maintained anymore. Barely safe. But they're there, and they're your fastest route. Karina traced a line on the map with her finger. Here. This entrance is in the old subway station at 5th and Main. It'll take you directly under human territory, emerging at the neutral ground's southern border. Mitchell was quiet for a long moment, studying the route, clearly calculating risks and possibilities. Why are you helping us? He finally asked. And don't give me some noble answer about true love or fighting injustice. You're an alpha's daughter. You're smart enough to know that helping me makes you guilty of treason against your own pack. Karina met his gaze evenly. Because I'm tired of watching people I care about suffer while I do nothing. Because I let my own mate Bond die through cowardice, and I won't let the same thing happen to someone else. And because... She paused, something vulnerable flickering across her face. Because if you reach the neutral grounds, if you survive this, maybe someday you'll reclaim your throne. And when you do, you'll remember the Alpha's daughter who helped you when no one else would. Political investment, Mitchell said flatly. You're betting on my future. Partially. But also, Karina's voice softened. I genuinely hope you make it. Both of you. You deserve a chance at happiness. Elva felt unexpected warmth toward this woman, who'd started as her blackmailer and was becoming something closer to a friend. Thank you, Karina. Don't thank me yet. You're not safe until you reach the neutral grounds. Karina folded the map and handed it to Mitchell. Memorize this route. Don't carry the map if you're caught with it. They'll know someone helped you plan this. Can you remember it? Mitchell's eyes flashed amber in the moonlight. A sign of his wolf rising. I never forget anything. Occupational hazard of being trained as a future king. Good. Karina turned to Elva. You'll need supplies. Food, water, basic medical equipment. I've prepared a pack. It's hidden in the old gardening shed behind the Omega quarters. Retrieve it tomorrow afternoon when everyone's distracted with preparations. How did you... I have my ways. Karina's smile was mysterious. Now, the distraction will happen at exactly 9 p.m. tomorrow night. That's when the formal dinner begins. I'll make sure it's spectacular enough to keep everyone occupied. You'll use the eastern border. There's a weak point in the fence line near the old oak tree. Can you find it? I know the place, Elva confirmed. Perfect. Cross there. Head northeast through the deadlands. Stay low, stay quiet, and for the love of the goddess, don't stop for anything. Once the alarm is raised, they'll send trackers. You'll have maybe 2 hours head start. 3 if you're lucky. Mitchell stepped forward. And for a moment, Elva thought he might thank Karina. Instead, he said, if this is a trap, if you've set us up, I want you to know that I'll survive long enough to make sure every pack in North America knows you helped the Crown Prince. Your father will be implicated. Your mate. Your entire pack. Everyone you love will suffer. Rather than being intimidated, Karina laughed. There's the Alpha. I was wondering when he'd show up. Her expression turned serious. It's not a trap, Your Highness. You have my word. For whatever that's worth to you. Words are cheap. Then judge me by my actions tomorrow night. Karina moved toward the mill's entrance, then paused. One more thing. When you reach the neutral grounds, seek out a wolf named Viola Blake. She runs a safe house there, helps refugees, rogues, wolves with nowhere else to go. Tell her Karina Bright sent you. She'll know what that means. Another investment in my future? Mitchell asked dryly. Another person who believes in second chances. Karina's smile turned sad. Viola lost her mate to pack politics. She understands what it's like to have the hierarchy destroy the people you love. She'll help you. With that, Karina disappeared into the darkness, leaving Elva and Mitchell alone in the ruined mill. They stood in silence for a moment, both processing everything that had just happened. Finally, Elva spoke. Do you trust her? No. Mitchell's answer was immediate. But I believe she's telling the truth about helping us. Her motivations might be political, but that doesn't mean her plan isn't sound. So we're really doing this. Running. We're not running. Mitchell pulled Elva close, resting his forehead against hers. We're making a tactical retreat. There's a difference. And once we reach the neutral grounds? What then? Then we figure out who's hunting me and why. We gather allies. We build strength. Mitchell's voice grew harder, more determined. And eventually, we stop running altogether. We take back what's mine. The throne. The throne. The pack. The life I was born for. His amber eyes blazed with purpose. I ran once because I was too weak to hold it. But I'm not that scared boy anymore. And I have something now I didn't have then. What's that? You. Mitchell kissed her softly. A mate worth fighting for. A reason to be strong. Someone who believes I can be more than my failures. Elva felt tears prick her eyes. I do believe in you, even when you don't believe in yourself. Then believe this. I'm going to give you a life worthy of a queen. I'm going to reclaim my throne, not because I want power, but because it's the only way to keep you safe. To give us a future where we're not always running, always hiding. Mitchell's hands cupped her face. I'm gonna make you proud, Elva Owens. I swear it. I'm already proud, Elva whispered. They stayed in the mill a while longer, holding each other, drawing strength from the bond that connected them. Tomorrow night, everything would change. Tomorrow night, they'd either escape to freedom or die trying. But tonight, they had each other. And for now, that was enough. The next day passed in a blur of nervous anticipation. Elva went through her duties mechanically, every moment, feeling like it might be her last in this place. She'd lived here her entire life, first as a regular pack member, then as an Omega after her family died and she'd been relegated to the lowest rank. She should feel sad about leaving, about abandoning the only home she'd ever known. Instead, she felt relief, liberation, like a prisoner who'd finally been given the key to her cell. You're leaving, aren't you? The quiet question came from Janine, who'd cornered Elva in the storage room where they were supposed to be organizing linens. Elva's heart skipped. What are you talking about? Don't lie to me, Elva. I saved your life 2 nights ago. I think I've earned the truth. Janine's expression was sad, but understanding. You're leaving with him. Your mate, tonight. There was no point in denying it. Yes. Good. Janine hugged her suddenly, fiercely. Good. Get out of here. Find happiness. Don't end up like me, still here 20 years later, still grieving a mate I never got to know. Come with us, Elva said impulsively. There's nothing for you here. Come with us to the neutral grounds. Start over. Janine pulled back, smiling sadly. I'm not brave like you, Elva. And besides, someone needs to stay here and make sure they don't figure out the truth too quickly. I'll buy you time however I can. Janine, no arguments. This is my choice. Janine squeezed Elva's hands. Just promise me you'll be happy. Promise me you'll live the life I never got to have. I promise, Elva whispered. They said their goodbyes in that storage room, 2 Omegas who'd been rendered invisible by their pack finally seeing each other clearly. When they parted, Elva felt like she was leaving behind the last piece of her old life. The afternoon crept toward evening. Elva retrieved the pack. Karina had hidden it was exactly where she'd said, filled with supplies that would keep them alive for days. Whoever Karina had enlisted to help, they'd been thorough. As night fell, the pack house came alive with activity. Representatives from neighboring packs arrived in their finery. Alphas and betas and their mates, all dressed to impress. The formal dinner would be a display of wealth and power, of political alliances and territorial negotiations. Elva had never attended such events. Omegas weren't invited to diplomatic functions. They were the ones who served food, who cleaned up afterward, who stayed invisible in the background. Tonight, that invisibility would be her greatest asset. At 8:30, she slipped away from the pack house, heading for the designated meeting spot. Mitchell was already there, dressed in dark clothes, his face set with determination. Ready? He asked. As I'll ever be. They made their way to the eastern border, moving through shadows, avoiding the few patrols still active. The weak point in the fence was exactly where Karina had said, hidden behind the old oak tree, barely noticeable unless you knew what to look for. 9 p.m. came and went. They waited, tense, for the distraction Karina had promised. At 9:15 it happened. An explosion, massive, spectacular, rocked the pack house. Even from this distance, they could see flames shooting into the sky, hear the chaos of wolves responding to the emergency. Goddess, Mitchell breathed. What did she blow up? I don't know, but it's working. Elva could hear the alarm being raised, warriors mobilizing. Everyone's running toward the pack house, the border's clear. Then let's go. They slipped through the fence, leaving Silver Creek pack territory behind. As they ran into the darkness of the Deadlands, Elva looked back once at the pack house ablaze with emergency lights, at the home she was leaving forever. She felt no regret. Only hope. If this escape is giving you hope too, please like this video. Behind them, in the chaos of the pack house, Karina Bright watched the flames rise, a small smile on her face. She'd set fire to the future Beta's prized collection of vintage motorcycles, a distraction spectacular enough to buy the fugitives time. Expensive enough that Timothy would be occupied for hours dealing with the fallout. "Sorry, darling," she murmured. "But some loves are worth burning things for." Then she turned away from the flames and walked back into her perfectly planned life, carrying the secret of two wolves running toward freedom. And in the Deadlands, Mitchell and Elva ran hand in hand, leaving behind everything they'd known, racing toward an uncertain future. But they ran together. And that made all the difference. Chapter 7, Through the Deadlands. The Deadlands earned their name honestly. No pack claimed this territory because nothing thrived here. The soil was poisoned from some long-ago industrial disaster. The water tainted, the trees twisted and skeletal. It was a wasteland caught between pack territories. A no-man's land where rogues hid and desperate wolves went to disappear. It was also the most dangerous stretch of their journey. Elva and Mitchell moved quickly through the darkness, following the route Karina had mapped out. The Deadlands were eerily quiet, no birdsong, no rustling of small animals, just the wind whistling through dead branches and the sound of their own ragged breathing. "How much time do you think we have?" Elva panted as they paused behind a collapsed warehouse, its walls covered in rust and graffiti. Mitchell tilted his head, listening. "They'll have noticed we're gone by now. Maybe an hour before the trackers are organized and sent after us. And the dogs? Less time if they use dogs." Mitchell's jaw clenched. "We need to move faster. The Deadlands are 5 miles across. If we can reach the other side before they catch our trail." A howl split the night, distant but unmistakable. The hunting call. "They're already tracking us," Elva whispered, fear clawing at her throat. "Then we run." They ran. Through abandoned buildings and across cracked parking lots, past rusted machinery and collapsed fences. The Deadlands were a maze of human ruins, and every shadow could hide danger rogue wolves desperate enough to attack for their supplies. Or worse, hunters closing in. Elva's lungs burned. Her legs screamed for rest. But Mitchell's hand in hers kept her moving, kept her focused. They couldn't stop. Couldn't slow down. Not now. There. Mitchell pointed to a structure ahead. An old subway entrance, its stairs leading down into darkness. "We can cut through the underground. It'll hide our scent. Give us cover." They plunged down the stairs into the abandoned subway station. The air was cooler here, dank and musty. Emergency lights still flickered somehow, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow. Graffiti covered the walls, territorial markers from various packs, warnings to trespassers, declarations of dominance. "This way," Mitchell said, following the tracks deeper into the tunnel. According to Karina's route, this line runs northeast for 3 miles before connecting to the underground passages that lead to the city. They moved through the tunnel, their footsteps echoing in the confined space. Water dripped from cracks in the ceiling. Somewhere in the darkness, rats scurried. Elva tried not to think about what would happen if they were trapped down here. If the hunters followed them into the tunnels, there would be nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. "Mitchell," she said quietly, "if we don't make it, we'll make it. But if we don't, I want you to know." "Elva." Mitchell stopped, turning to face her in the dim light. "We're going to make it. I refuse to accept any other outcome. I didn't spend 8 years running just to die in a subway tunnel with the woman I love." "You love me?" The words slipped out before Elva could stop them. Mitchell's expression softened. "Of course I love you. How could I not? You're the bravest, most stubborn, most incredible wolf I've ever met. You saved my life. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You risked everything for a mate you barely knew." He cupped her face gently. "So yes, I love you. And I'm going to spend the rest of our very long lives proving it to you." Elva kissed him, pouring all her fear and hope and love into that brief contact. When they pulled apart, tears were streaming down her face. "I love you too," she whispered. In case that wasn't obvious. Mitchell smiled a real smile, warm and genuine. It was a little obvious. A sound echoed through the tunnel behind them, voices, getting closer. "They're in the tunnels," Elva breathed. "Move. Now." They ran again, racing through the darkness. The tunnel branched off in multiple directions. Mitchell chose paths, seemingly at random, trying to confuse their trail. "Left here," he said, pulling her down a smaller side tunnel. "This should connect to the maintenance passages." They emerged into a larger chamber, what looked like an old maintenance hub for the subway system. Tools still hung on the walls, lockers stood in neat rows, and a large map of the underground system was painted on one wall. Mitchell studied the map quickly, tracing routes with his finger. "If we go through here, we can avoid the main tunnels. It's longer, but safer." "How much longer?" "Another 2 hours, maybe 3. Elva glanced back the way they'd come. The voices were getting closer, echoing through the tunnels. "We don't have 3 hours. Then we make do with what we have." Mitchell grabbed her hand again. "Through here." They squeezed through a narrow maintenance door, finding themselves in a cramped service corridor. It was barely wide enough for one person, forcing them to move single file. The ceiling was so low they had to hunch over. Behind them, they heard the hunters enter the maintenance chamber. "Spread out. Check every passage." That was Beta Billy Riley's voice. He joined the hunt personally. That was bad. Riley was known for his persistence, his refusal to give up once he'd locked onto a target. Elva and Mitchell moved as quickly as they could through the service corridor, but it seemed to stretch on forever. The walls pressed in on all sides. The air was stale, hard to breathe. "Almost there," Mitchell whispered. "I can see an opening ahead." They emerged into another tunnel, this one older, more decrepit. The walls were crumbling, the ceiling unstable. But it was heading in the right direction, away from the hunters. "How did you memorize all of this?" Elva asked, as they picked their way over debris. "Royal training. I was taught to read maps, memorize routes, never forget terrain." Mitchell's voice held a hint of bitterness. "All those lessons preparing me to be king. Turns out they're more useful for running away." "You're not running away anymore," Elva said firmly. "You're running toward something. Toward a future where you can be who you're meant to be." Before Mitchell could respond, a section of the ceiling ahead collapsed with a deafening crash. Dust and debris filled the tunnel, and when it cleared, their path was completely blocked. "No," Mitchell breathed, staring at the pile of rubble. "No, no, no. Can we climb over it?" "It's not stable. We'd bring the whole ceiling down." Mitchell spun, looking for another option. "We'll have to backtrack, find another route." But backtracking meant going back toward the hunters, toward capture. Elva looked around desperately, searching for any other option. Then she saw a narrow crack in the wall, partially hidden behind more debris. Air was flowing through it, which meant it led somewhere. "Mitchell, look." They cleared away enough debris to reveal a small opening barely large enough to squeeze through, but passable. "Where does it lead?" Mitchell asked. "Only one way to find out." They squeezed through the crack, finding themselves in a natural cave system. The subway tunnels must have been built over old limestone caves, and time and water had worn through the barrier between them. The caves were pitch black, forcing them to move slowly, feeling their way along the walls. Water dripped constantly. The sound of their breathing echoed strangely in the confined space. "I think we're heading upward," Mitchell said after they'd been walking for several minutes. "The grade is changing." "How can you tell?" "Alpha senses. We're trained to be aware of our surroundings, even in complete darkness." He paused. "There's fresh air ahead. We're close to an exit." Sure enough, a few minutes later, they saw light moonlight, filtering through an opening in the cave ceiling. They climbed toward it, scrambling over rocks and through narrow passages, until finally they emerged into the open air. They were in a ravine, surrounded by rocky outcroppings. Above them, the night sky was clear, stars blazing, and in the distance, the city. Elva breathed, seeing the glow of lights on the horizon. "We made it through the Deadlands." "Not quite." Mitchell pointed back the way they'd come. In the darkness of the ravine, lights were moving flashlights. Dozens of them. "They're still tracking us. How is that possible?" "We went through caves, underwater passages. Dogs don't give up easily, and Riley is a master tracker." Mitchell's expression was grim. "We need to reach the city. Once we're in human territory, the hunt becomes complicated. They can't use wolves openly, can't track as aggressively." They climbed out of the ravine and ran toward the city lights. The terrain was changing, less wilderness, more civilization. They passed through the outskirts, where abandoned factories and warehouses gave way to actual buildings, actual streets. The human city was massive, sprawling. Even at this late hour, cars moved on distant highways, lights glowed in windows. It was a world Elva had rarely visited. Wolves and humans kept separate most of the time, each society pretending the other didn't fully exist. 5th and Main, Mitchell said, consulting the mental map he'd memorized. The subway entrance. That's where the underground passages to the neutral grounds begin. They moved through the city streets, trying to look casual despite their disheveled appearance and the pack on Mitchell's back. A few humans gave them odd looks but didn't interfere. One of the benefits of a city, people minded their own business. 5th and Main was in the old downtown area, where the buildings were pre-war structures, grand but crumbling. The subway entrance Karina had mentioned was boarded up, marked with condemned signs. "Are you sure this is right?" Elva asked, eyeing the decrepit entrance. "Only one way to find out." Mitchell pried the boards loose, revealing the dark entrance beyond. They slipped inside, pulling the boards back into place behind them to hide their trail. This subway station was even more abandoned than the one in the Deadlands. No emergency lights here, just complete darkness. They had to feel their way down the stairs, moving carefully to avoid falling. "There should be a passage marked with a wolf symbol," Mitchell said. 3 scratches, arranged in a triangle. That's the marker for the underground network. They searched by touch, running their hands over the walls. Minutes ticked by. Elva was starting to panic when her fingers found 3 deep gouges in the stone, arranged exactly as Mitchell had described. Here, behind the marked wall, was a hidden door, so well concealed it was nearly invisible. Mitchell pushed it open, revealing a passage beyond this one clearly maintained, with functional lights and clean walls. "Welcome to the underground," Mitchell said. "The secret network that connects all major wolf territories. Most wolves don't even know it exists anymore." They stepped into the passage, and the door swung shut behind them. For the first time since fleeing Silver Creek, Elva felt something like safety. "How far to the neutral grounds?" she asked. According to Karina's route, about 10 miles through these passages, maybe 3 hours if we keep a steady pace. Mitchell looked at her, concern evident. "Can you make it?" Elva was exhausted, her body screaming for rest. But they were so close. "I can make it." They walked through the underground passages, following markers that guided them northeast. The passages were surprisingly sophisticated, clearly built by wolves with resources and planning. Emergency supplies were stored in regular intervals. Maps were posted at major intersections. It was a complete alternate infrastructure, hidden beneath the human world. "Who built all this?" Elva asked as they paused at an intersection to check their route. "Our ancestors. Back when wolves were hunted by humans, when we needed escape routes and safe houses." Mitchell studied the map on the wall. "This network connects every major pack territory in North America. In theory, a wolf could travel from coast to coast without ever surfacing into human territory. But nobody uses it anymore. Most packs don't maintain their sections. The knowledge has been lost, or kept secret by alphas who don't want their wolves to have easy escape routes." Mitchell's smile was bitter. Can't have the lower ranks thinking they can just run away. After all, they continued walking. The passages endless and unchanging. Time lost meaning down here. Elva's feet moved automatically, one step after another, focused only on Mitchell's back ahead of her. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached a door marked with a different symbol. A full moon with a wolf howling beneath it. "The neutral grounds," Mitchell said quietly. "Once we cross this threshold, we're under the old laws. No pack has authority here. We'll be safe." "Will we, though?" Elva couldn't help the doubt creeping into her voice. "You're the crown prince. Someone powerful wants you dead or captured. Are we ever really going to be safe?" Mitchell turned to face her fully, taking both her hands in his. "I don't know," he admitted. "I don't know if we'll ever be completely safe. But I know we'll be safer together than apart. I know we'll fight for the life we want. And I know that whatever comes next, we'll face it as mates. As partners. As king and queen?" Elva asked with a small smile. "Eventually. But for now, Mitchell squeezed her hands. For now we're just two wolves who refuse to give up on each other. And that's enough. He pushed open the door, and light flooded in real daylight, warm and golden. They'd been running all night, and dawn had broken while they were underground. They stepped through together, emerging into the neutral grounds. The landscape was beautiful, rolling hills covered in wildflowers, forests that looked healthy and vibrant, streams that ran clear. In the distance, Elva could see buildings, a small town, from the looks of it, with houses and shops and wolves moving about their daily business. "Welcome to freedom," Mitchell said softly. Elva breathed in the clean air, feeling tension she'd carried for years slowly releasing. They'd made it. Against all odds, through all the danger, they'd actually made it. "Now what?" she asked. "Now we find Viola Blake, get settled, rest." Mitchell put his arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "And then we figure out how to take back my throne." "Our throne," Elva corrected. Mitchell smiled. "Our throne." They walked down the hill toward the town, two refugees seeking sanctuary. Behind them, the door to the underground passages swung shut, sealing off their past. Ahead of them lay an uncertain future full of danger, full of challenges, but also full of possibility. And they faced it together, as they'd face everything that came after. Mates, partners, future rulers, but most importantly, survivors. Chapter 8. Sanctuary and Secrets. The town in the neutral grounds was unlike any wolf settlement Elva had ever seen. There were no territorial markers, no hierarchy displays, no visible ranking system. Wolves moved freely through the streets, some in human form, some shifted, all seemingly at ease. A female wolf in tattered clothes walked beside a male in expensive tailored pants. A scarred warrior shared a bench with an elderly wolf who looked too frail to shift. Everyone here was equal. Everyone here was safe. It was beautiful. And terrifying. "It's strange, isn't it?" Mitchell murmured as they walked through the main street. "Seeing wolves interact, without the power structure. Without the constant assessment of rank. I didn't know it was possible," Elva admitted, watching a group of young wolves playing in a park, without any adults supervising them. In Silver Creek, everything was about hierarchy. Even children learned their place. Most packs are like that. The old laws that govern the neutral grounds are different. Ancient. They predate the pack system entirely. Mitchell guided her toward a building that looked like it might be a general store. "Let's ask someone about Viola Blake. Karina said she runs a safe house here." The store was warm and welcoming inside, filled with supplies and goods. Behind the counter stood a middle-aged male wolf with kind eyes and graying hair. "Welcome, travelers," he said with a genuine smile. "New arrivals? Is it that obvious?" Mitchell asked. "You have that look exhausted, wary, checking all the exits." The shopkeeper's smile turned sympathetic. "Most newcomers do. Takes a while to believe you're really safe here. I'm Ricky Hancock. I run this place. Mitchell hesitated, clearly uncertain how much to reveal. "Mitchell. And this is Elva. No last names needed here. We don't ask questions about where wolves come from or what they're running from." Ricky pulled out 2 mugs and a pot of coffee. "But you look like you could use sustenance and directions. What can I help you with?" "We're looking for someone named Viola Blake," Elva said, accepting the coffee gratefully. "We were told she runs a safe house." Ricky's expression brightened. "Viola. Yes, she's been here about 5 years now. Runs the best safe house in the grounds, takes in refugees, helps them get settled. Her place is just north of here. The big house with the blue door. You can't miss it." "Thank you," Mitchell said sincerely. "One more thing," Ricky leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Word of advice for newcomers. The neutral grounds are safe, but that doesn't mean they're without politics. Different factions, different interests. Some wolves here are content to live in peace, others are waiting for opportunities. Just be careful who you trust." Mitchell's expression became guarded. "Noted." They finished their coffee and headed north, following Ricky's directions. The house with the blue door was exactly as described, a large, well-maintained building that looked welcoming despite its size. Flowers bloomed in the front garden, and a porch swing moved gently in the breeze. Before they could knock, the door opened. The woman who stood there was striking, probably in her late 30s, with dark hair shot through with silver and eyes that seemed to see straight through pretense. She wore simple clothes but carried herself with quiet authority. "Viola Blake?" Mitchell asked. "That's me." Viola's gaze moved between them, assessing. "And you're the wolves Karina Bright promised would arrive. Though you're here faster than I expected. Must have had quite the journey." "You know Karina?" Elva asked in surprise. "We've corresponded. I help wolves escape difficult situations. She occasionally sends me refugees who need sanctuary." Viola stepped aside, gesturing them in. "Come in. You both look ready to collapse." The interior of the safe house was warm and comfortable, clearly a place designed to help traumatized wolves feel secure. Soft furniture, warm colors. Nothing threatening or harsh. "Sit," Viola commanded gently, pointing to a large couch. "I'll get you proper food. Then you can tell me your story as much as you're comfortable sharing." While Viola was in the kitchen, Elva leaned against Mitchell, finally allowing herself to acknowledge how exhausted she was. They'd been running for over 12 hours straight. Her body was shutting down. "We made it," she whispered. "We actually made it." "We made it to the first waypoint," Mitchell corrected, though his voice was gentle. "This is safety. But it's not the end. We still have to figure out who's hunting me and why. Can we figure it out tomorrow? After we've slept for a week?" Mitchell smiled, kissing her forehead. "Yes, tomorrow." Viola returned with plates piled high with food, real food, hot and fresh. Elva hadn't realized how hungry she was until she started eating. They both devoured everything, barely pausing to breathe. "Better?" Viola asked, watching them with amusement. "Much better," Elva said. "Thank you. Now, let's talk." Viola settled into a chair across from them. "Karina's message was brief, just said you were a mated pair fleeing dangerous circumstances, that I should provide shelter and discretion. She didn't say why you were fleeing, or who from. Care to elaborate?" Mitchell exchanged a glance with Elva. How much should they reveal? Viola had helped them, but Ricky's warning echoed in Elva's mind. "Be careful who you trust." "I'm being hunted," Mitchell said carefully, "by wolves who want to use me for political purposes." "Most wolves who end up here are being hunted for something," Viola said. "But political purposes suggests you're someone important. Someone with value beyond just being a rogue. I was important once. I'm trying very hard to be nobody now." Viola studied him for a long moment. "You have alpha energy, strong alpha energy, actually, stronger than most I've encountered. And you," she turned to Elva, "you're an omega, but you've got steel in your spine. That's unusual. Is that a problem?" Elva asked, defensive. "Not at all. I prefer wolves with steel in their spines. Makes them survivors." Viola leaned back. "Here's what I can offer you. A room, as long as you need it. Protection under the old laws. Anyone who tries to harm you here will answer to the Council of Neutrals. And discretion. I won't share your presence or your identities with anyone." "Why?" Mitchell asked bluntly. "Why help strangers?" Viola's expression turned sad. "Because 10 years ago, I needed help and no one offered it. My mate and I were fleeing a forced mating. I was being sold to an alpha to settle my father's debts. We ran, thinking we could make it to the neutral grounds. But we didn't run fast enough." Her voice caught slightly. "They caught him first. Killed him as an example. I only survived because he sacrificed himself to give me time to escape." "I'm so sorry," Elva whispered. "I've had time to grieve, but I made a vow at his grave I would help every wolf I could escape what we couldn't. I would provide the sanctuary we were denied." Viola's eyes hardened with determination. "So no wolf who comes to my door gets turned away, ever?" Mitchell nodded slowly. "Then we accept your offer, with gratitude. But I need you to understand the wolves hunting me are dangerous, powerful. By helping us, you might be putting yourself at risk." "I've been at risk since the day I opened this house," Viola said with a slight smile. "But the old laws protect us here. Even powerful wolves think twice before violating sanctuary." "What are these old laws everyone keeps mentioning?" Elva asked. "The original laws of our kind. From before the pack system existed, before alphas and betas and hierarchy." Viola's voice took on a teaching tone. "They're simple. No wolf shall harm another on neutral ground. No wolf shall be denied sanctuary who seeks it honestly. No wolf shall be judged by their past, only their present actions. The Council of Neutrals enforces these laws absolutely. And this council, they have power? Mitchell asked. Immense power. They're made up of the eldest and wisest wolves from various territories, wolves who've given up pack affiliations to serve as guardians of the grounds. They answer to no alpha, no king, only to the old laws themselves. Viola stood. But that's enough heavy conversation for now. You both need rest. Come, I'll show you to your room. She led them upstairs to a comfortable bedroom with a large bed, clean linens, and windows that looked out over the peaceful town. It was simple, but perfect. Rest, Viola said from the doorway. We can talk more tomorrow about your situation and what comes next. For now, you're safe. After she left, Elva and Mitchell barely managed to remove their shoes before collapsing onto the bed. Elva curled against Mitchell's chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong beneath her ear. We made it, she whispered again, needing to say it out loud. We made it, Mitchell confirmed, his arms tight around her. My brave, incredible mate. We actually made it. They fell asleep within minutes, exhausted but safe, two wolves finally finding rest after running for so long. Elva woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of food cooking downstairs. For a disorienting moment, she didn't know where she was. Then memory returned the escape. The underground passages. The neutral grounds. Mitchell was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring out the window. How long did we sleep? Elva asked, her voice rough. 14 hours. Mitchell turned to look at her, and she was struck by how different he looked, rested, alert, more like the king he was born to be, and less like the hunted rogue he'd become. Viola checked on us once, said to come down when we woke. They cleaned up as best they could with the supplies in the attached bathroom, then headed downstairs. Viola was in the kitchen, cooking breakfast for what looked like a dozen people. The safe house had more residents than Elva had realized. Good morning, Viola called out. There's coffee, and food will be ready in a few minutes. Everyone, these are our newest guests, Mitchell and Elva. The other residents called out greetings, but didn't press for more information. Elva recognized the look in their eyes. Wolves who'd been through trauma, who understood the need for privacy and respect. After breakfast, Viola pulled them aside. We need to discuss your longer-term plans, she said seriously. The neutral grounds are safe, but they're also small. Word travels fast here. If someone is actively looking for you, they'll figure out you're here eventually. How long do we have? Mitchell asked. Depends on how determined they are. Could be weeks, could be days. Viola crossed her arms. Which brings me to my next question. What exactly are you planning to do? Hide here indefinitely? Or are you working towards something? Mitchell was quiet for a moment, then seemed to come to a decision. Can we speak privately? What I'm about to tell you needs to stay confidential. Viola led them to a small office at the back of the house, closing the door firmly. This room is soundproofed. We can talk freely. My full name is Mitchell James Holland, Mitchell said without preamble. I'm the former Crown Prince of the Northern Territories, the rightful heir to the throne currently occupied by Pablo Pruitt. To Viola's credit, she didn't gasp or exclaim. She just nodded slowly, pieces clearly falling into place. That explains the alpha energy and the intense hunting. Pruitt wants you dead, or captured and controlled. I'm not sure which. Mitchell ran a hand through his hair. I spent 8 years hiding, trying to be nobody. But someone figured out who I am. And now I have a choice: keep running forever, or stop running and reclaim what's mine. And you've chosen to stop running, Viola said. Yes, but I need allies, information, resources. Mitchell looked at her directly. Can you help with that? Viola was quiet for a long moment, clearly weighing something heavy. Finally, she spoke. The neutral grounds aren't as neutral as they seem, she said carefully. There are factions here. Wolves waiting for opportunities. Some are loyalists to the old Holland line wolves who've been waiting for you to return. Others support Pruitt, or other alphas with ambitions for the throne. You're saying there are spies here, Mitchell said flatly. I'm saying information flows both ways. Which means we need to be very careful about who knows your true identity. Viola leaned forward. But yes, I can help you. I have contacts wolves who've been loyal to your family line, who've been quietly building a resistance against Pruitt's rule. They've been waiting for a legitimate heir to rally behind. They've been waiting for me, Mitchell said. They've been waiting for someone worthy of the crown. Whether that's you remains to be seen. Viola's voice was firm, but not unkind. You ran away once, Your Highness. They'll need proof you won't run again. Mitchell flinched at the title, but nodded. I understand. What do they need to see? Strength, commitment, the ability to lead. Viola pulled out a map, spreading it on her desk. Pruitt controls the Northern Territories through fear and brutality. But his hold is weakening. 3 major packs are on the verge of rebellion. If you could secure their loyalty, prove you're a viable alternative. We could start building an actual opposition, Mitchell finished. Not just hiding, but actively working to reclaim the throne. Exactly. But it won't be easy. Pruitt has resources, warriors, political connections. Viola looked between them. And you have what? A mate, some determination, and a claim to a throne you abandoned 8 years ago? I have more than that, Mitchell said quietly. I have 8 years of learning how to survive against impossible odds. I have the wisdom that comes from failure. And he reached for Elva's hand. I have a reason to fight that's stronger than any I had before. Viola's expression softened slightly. The mate bond. Yes, that does change things. She studied Elva. And you? An Omega standing beside a king. That's unprecedented. The packs won't know what to make of you. Good. Elva said firmly. Let them be uncertain. Let them underestimate me. I've been underestimated my entire life. I've learned to use it. Viola smiled a real smile, warm with approval. I think you two might actually have a chance. It's slim, but it's there. She folded the map. Give me a few days to contact my people discreetly. We'll set up a meeting with representatives from the rebelling packs. You'll need to convince them you're worth following. We will, Mitchell said with certainty. In the meantime, stay in the safe house. Don't advertise your presence. And most importantly, Viola's expression turned serious. Don't trust anyone completely, not even me. In politics, everyone has their own agenda. Noted, Mitchell said. After Viola left, Elva turned to Mitchell. Are you really ready for this? Taking back the throne means war. It means putting yourself directly in danger. I know. Mitchell pulled her close. But hiding forever isn't living. And I want to live, Elva. Really live. I want to be the king I should have been 8 years ago. I want to give you the life you deserve. I deserve you, Elva said simply. Everything else is just details. Mitchell kissed her, deep and fierce and full of promise. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. We're really doing this, Elva said. We're going to war. We're going to win. Mitchell corrected. Because we have something Pruitt doesn't have. What's that? A true mate bond. The blessing of the moon goddess herself. Mitchell's amber eyes blazed with determination. That's more powerful than any army. And it's going to be his downfall. Outside the window, the peaceful town went about its day, unaware that within Viola Blake's safe house, the lost Alpha King was planning his return. The game was about to change. The players were moving into position. And in the Northern Territories, Pablo Pruitt was about to discover that the ghost he'd been hunting was very much alive and coming for his stolen throne. Chapter 9. The Gathering of Rebels. 3 days passed in relative peace. Elva spent the time helping Viola around the safe house, getting to know the other refugees, and learning the rhythms of life in the neutral grounds. It was strange, this life without hierarchy, no one bowing, no one submitting, everyone simply existing as equals. It was also the freest she'd ever felt. Mitchell spent his days in Viola's office, studying maps, reading reports, reconnecting with the political landscape he'd abandoned 8 years ago. Watching him transform from a hunted rogue into a leader was mesmerizing. The way he held himself, changed the way he spoke, even the way he looked at the world. The king was emerging from beneath the rogue's disguise. On the 4th morning, Viola knocked on their door early. They're here, she said quietly. The representatives from the 3 rebelling packs. They've agreed to meet with you tonight, but on their terms. Neutral location, no guards, complete discretion. Mitchell was instantly alert. Where? The old council hall at the edge of the grounds. It's abandoned but secure. They'll arrive at midnight. Viola's expression was grave. This is your chance to make your case, Your Highness. If you can convince them you're worth following, they'll pledge their support. If you can't, they'll go home and we'll be on our own, Mitchell finished. Worse, they might decide you're a liability and report your location to Pruitt. Not all resistance is created equal. Some wolves just want Pruitt gone, not necessarily with you on the throne. Understood. Mitchell looked at Elva. We'll be ready. After Viola left, Elva turned to Mitchell. Are you nervous? Terrified, he admitted. These wolves, they're risking everything by even meeting with me. They deserve a leader who won't fail them the way I failed everyone 8 years ago. You didn't fail them. You weren't ready. Elva took his hands. But you're ready now. You've survived things that would have destroyed a weaker wolf. You've learned, grown, become someone who understands what real strength means. They'll see that. You have more faith in me than I have in myself. Good. Because right now, that's exactly what you need. Elva squeezed his hands. Tonight you don't go in there as Mitchell the Rogue. You go in there as Mitchell Holland, Crown Prince and rightful king. You command their respect, their loyalty, their allegiance, and you show them that the wolf they've been waiting for has finally come home. Mitchell stared at her, something shifting in his amber eyes. When did you become so wise? When I bonded with a king and realized he needed a queen who wouldn't let him doubt himself. Elva smiled. Now, let's prepare. If we're going to convince rebel packs to follow us into war, we'd better look the part. The old council hall stood at the very edge of the neutral grounds, a stone structure that had clearly once been grand but now showed signs of age and neglect. Moonlight made the building look ghostly, otherworldly. Mitchell and Elva approached cautiously, senses alert for any sign of ambush, but the area seemed clear, just them and the ancient building. Ready? Mitchell asked. Ready. They entered together. The interior was a large circular chamber with a domed ceiling. Stone benches ringed the space, arranged in tiers like an amphitheater, and on those benches sat wolves, powerful wolves, their energy filling the space like static electricity. 3 groups, clearly separated. Viola stepped forward from the shadows, taking her place as mediator. Thank you all for coming. I know the risk you've taken just being here. She gestured to Mitchell and Elva. May I present Mitchell James Holland, Crown Prince of the Northern Territories, and his mate Elva. The silence that followed was heavy with assessment. Finally, a large male stood from the first group, gray-haired but powerfully built, with scars crisscrossing his face. I am Nelson Lutz, Alpha of the Ironwood Pack. My pack served the Holland line for 3 generations. We were devastated when you disappeared. A female stood from the second group, tall, elegant, with sharp features and sharper eyes. Christine Wyatt, Alpha of the Riverside Pack. We've suffered under Pruitt's rule for 8 years. He's bled our pack dry with taxes and tribute. The third Alpha rose slowly, a younger male, probably only a few years older than Mitchell, with an air of carefully controlled power. Jason Henry, Alpha of the Clearwater Pack. We've stayed neutral so far, but Pruitt is forcing our hand. We need a viable alternative before we commit to open rebellion. Mitchell stepped forward, and Elva saw it, the shift in his bearing. The assumption of authority that came so naturally it must have been bred into him. This was Mitchell Holland, Crown Prince, addressing his future subjects. Thank you for coming, Mitchell said, his voice carrying easily through the chamber. I know you've risked much to be here. I know you have questions about where I've been, why I left, whether I'm worthy of your loyalty. I won't insult you with easy answers or false promises. Good, Nelson Lutz said gruffly. We've had enough of those from Pruitt. 8 years ago, I ran away from the crown because I was scared. Because I thought I wasn't strong enough to hold it. Because I believed my father's legacy was too great to live up to. Mitchell's voice was steady, unflinching. I was right to doubt myself then. I wasn't ready. I was a boy playing at being king. And now? Christine Wyatt asked, her tone skeptical. Now I'm a man who's learned what strength really means. Not power over others, but the will to survive impossible circumstances. Not commanding through fear, but leading through conviction. Mitchell met each Alpha's gaze in turn. I spent 8 years as a rogue. I learned what it means to have nothing, to rely only on myself, to face each day knowing it might be my last. I learned humility, I learned resilience, and most importantly, he reached for Elva's hand. I learned what's worth fighting for. Jason Henry's eyes narrowed. Your mate. An Omega. From what I can sense. That's unconventional for a king. Unconventional, Elva spoke up, her voice clear and strong. But not weak. I may be an Omega, but I've survived things that would have broken wolves twice my rank. I chose this mate knowing it meant treason, exile, possibly death. And I'd make the same choice again. Pretty words, Christine said, but words won't defeat Pruitt. He has an army, he has resources, he has the backing of powerful alphas who benefit from his brutal regime. What do you have? I have legitimacy, Mitchell said. I am the rightful heir. That matters to wolves who still believe in tradition, in bloodlines, in the old laws. Pruitt is a usurper who took the throne through violence and intimidation. I am Holland blood, chosen by birth and destiny. Pruitt will argue that you abandoned your claim when you ran, Nelson pointed out. And I'll argue that I withdrew temporarily to prepare myself for the responsibility of rule. 8 years in exile, learning what it means to lead not through inherited power, but through earned respect. Mitchell's voice grew stronger. The question isn't whether I have a legal claim to the throne. The question is whether I have the strength to take it back and hold it. And do you? Jason asked bluntly. With your support, yes. Without it, no. Mitchell spread his hands. I'm not asking you to follow me blindly into war. I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove I'm the leader you've been waiting for. Support me publicly. Let it be known that the Holland heir has returned and is gathering his loyalists. Force Pruitt to acknowledge the threat I represent. That will make us targets, Christine said. You're already targets. Pruitt is suspicious of any pack that doesn't bow low enough, tribute enough, submit enough. How long before he decides your packs are liabilities? Before he sends his warriors to bring you in line? Mitchell's eyes blazed. You can wait for Pruitt to destroy you one by one, or you can stand with me and fight for a better future. Nelson Lutz stood slowly. You speak well, Prince Mitchell. But talk is cheap. What proof can you offer that you won't run again when things get difficult? Mitchell was quiet for a moment. Then he did something Elva didn't expect. He shifted. His wolf form materialized in a shimmer of power, a massive creature with dark fur and eyes that glowed like molten gold. But it wasn't just his size that was impressive. It was his aura. The sheer, overwhelming presence of an alpha king. The power filled the chamber like a physical force, pressing down on everyone present. Even the other alphas looked shaken by the intensity of it. Mitchell shifted back to human form, his voice steady. This is what I've been hiding for 8 years. This is the power that marks me as Holland blood, as a true alpha king. Pruitt doesn't have this. His power is artificial, maintained through force and fear. Mine is birthright. Mine is destiny. Nelson Lutz knelt suddenly, pressing his fist to his heart. I pledge Ironwood Pack to the Holland line. My warriors are yours. My resources are yours. My loyalty is yours until death or release. The ancient pledge of allegiance. Christine Wyatt studied Mitchell for a long moment, then stood and knelt as well. Riverside Pack stands with the rightful king. We pledge our support. All eyes turned to Jason Henry, who remained standing, his expression unreadable. You have power, Jason said finally. You have legitimacy. You even have passion. But I need more than that. I need strategy. I need to know how you plan to actually defeat Pruitt, because power and passion without strategy is just martyrdom. Fair enough. Mitchell moved to a table where Viola had laid out maps. Come here. Let me show you exactly how we're going to win this war. For the next hour, Mitchell laid out his plan. It was brilliant, calculated, patient, strategic. He'd spent his 3 days in Viola's office doing more than just studying. He'd been planning. Pruitt's strength is his army, but that's also his weakness, Mitchell explained, pointing to locations on the map. He rules through fear, which means his warriors follow him only as long as they believe he's invincible. If we can show cracks in that image, if we can demonstrate that he's vulnerable, his support will crumble. How do we do that? Christine asked. We start small. We target his supply lines, his tributes, his secondary operations. Nothing that risks major casualties, but enough to show he can't protect his interests. We make him look weak, make his supporters doubt. Mitchell's finger traced routes on the map. At the same time, we spread word that the Holland heir has returned. We let that information leak strategically, building anticipation, building hope among wolves who remember the old regime. A propaganda war, Jason said thoughtfully, combined with guerrilla tactics. We're not strong enough yet for direct confrontation, so we don't seek one. We weaken him gradually, methodically, until he's desperate enough to make mistakes. Mitchell looked up. And when he does, when he overextends or shows his hand, that's when we strike decisively. Nelson was nodding, clearly impressed. You've thought this through. I've had nothing but time to think for 8 years. Mitchell's smile was grim. And I've learned from every alpha who's successfully taken or held a throne. This isn't just passion. This is calculated warfare. Jason Henry finally knelt, pressing his fist to his heart. Clearwater Pack stands with the Holland line. You have my warriors, my resources, my loyalty. Mitchell's relief was palpable. With 3 packs pledged, he had the foundation of an actual rebellion. It wasn't enough to defeat Pruitt outright, but it was a start. We meet again in 1 week, Mitchell said. By then, I want intelligence on Pruitt's current positions, his supply routes, his weakest holdings. We plan our first strike carefully. Make it count. The alphas agreed, each making plans to slip away from the council hall at different times to avoid suspicion. As they left, Viola approached Mitchell and Elva. You did well, she said quietly. Better than I expected, honestly. You gave them confidence, strategy, and hope. That's more than they've had in years. It's only the beginning, Mitchell said. The hard part comes next. The hard part is convincing rebel alphas to follow you. You just did that. Viola smiled. The rest is just war. Just war, Elva repeated, feeling the weight of those words. Mitchell pulled her close. Are you afraid? Terrified, Elva admitted. But also excited. Is that wrong? To be excited about starting a war? Not when it's a war for our future. For our right to exist freely. Mitchell kissed her forehead. We're going to win this, Elva. We're going to take back my throne. And when we do, I'm going to make you my queen. Officially, in front of all the packs. An Omega queen, Elva said with a slight smile. The alphas are going to hate that. Good. Let them hate it. Let them be reminded that rank doesn't determine worth, that power comes in unexpected forms. Mitchell's eyes blazed with determination. You're going to change everything about how our world works, starting with me. They left the council hall together, walking back toward Viola's safe house through the quiet night. Above them, stars blazed in a clear sky. The moon goddess watching, perhaps. Approving. Hopefully. Behind them, rebel alphas slipped away into darkness, carrying news that would shake the Northern Territories to its core. The lost prince had returned. The rightful king was claiming his throne. And beside him stood an Omega who refused to be invisible anymore. The war had begun. Not with armies or battles, but with words and pledges and strategic plans. But soon, very soon, those plans would turn into action. And Pablo Pruitt would discover that the ghost he'd been hunting was very much alive. And coming for everything he'd stolen. Chapter 10. Reclaiming the crown. 6 months. That's how long it took for Mitchell's careful strategy to bear fruit. 6 months of calculated strikes against Pruitt's operations. 6 months of spreading rumors, building alliances, strengthening their position. 6 months of turning the lost prince into a legitimate threat. Elva stood in the war room, what had once been Viola's largest guest room, studying the map covered in markers indicating their progress. Red pins showed Pruitt's remaining strongholds. Blue pins showed packs that had pledged to Mitchell. Green pins showed neutral territories that could swing either way. The map was much bluer than it had been 6 months ago. He's getting desperate, Mitchell said, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. 3 more packs pledged to us this week. Pruitt's tax collectors were ambushed in Ironwood territory. His supply depot in the eastern sector was completely destroyed. Your work? Elva asked, though she already knew the answer. Jason Henry's warriors. Clean operation, no casualties on our side. Mitchell's voice held satisfaction. Everything's going according to plan. Pruitt's losing control, losing face, losing the fear that kept wolves in line. And now he's doing exactly what you predicted he would do, Elva said, pointing to a report on the table. Calling for a grand council, demanding all major alphas attend to reaffirm their loyalty. It's a trap, obviously. He's going to try to identify and eliminate his opposition in one stroke. Mitchell's jaw clenched. But it's also an opportunity. An opportunity for what? To challenge him publicly. In front of all the packs. Under the old laws of council, any wolf can issue a formal challenge for leadership. Winner takes the throne. Elva turned in his arms, studying his face. You want to fight him. One-on-one. It's the fastest way to end this. Pruitt's a vicious fighter, but he's not as strong as he pretends. He relies on intimidation and brutality. I have actual Alpha King power. Mitchell's eyes met hers. I can beat him, Elva. Can you? Or do you just want us so badly that you're willing to risk everything on a single fight? Mitchell was quiet for a moment. 6 months ago, I would have said I wasn't sure, but now, after everything we've done, everything we've built, I know I can win. Not because I'm stronger or faster, but because I'm fighting for something real. For us. For the future we're building. That gives me power he doesn't have. The mate bond, Elva said softly. The mate bond. Mitchell pulled her closer. You've made me stronger, Elva. In every way that matters. I'm not the scared boy who ran away anymore. I'm the king I was always meant to be. And tomorrow, at the Grand Council, I'm going to prove it. Elva wanted to argue, to find another way, to keep him safe. But she could see the determination in his eyes, the certainty. This was his destiny. He'd been running from it for 8 years, but now he was running toward it. All she could do was stand beside him. Then we go to the council, she said firmly, and we win. The Grand Council was held in the ancient amphitheater, at the heart of the Northern Territories, a massive stone structure that had hosted pack gatherings for centuries. When Elva and Mitchell arrived, escorted by warriors from their allied packs, the place was already filled with hundreds of wolves. Every major alpha was present. Every important beta. Representatives from dozens of packs. All gathered to witness whatever Pruitt had planned. The energy in the amphitheater was electric. Fear, anticipation, anger, hope, all swirling together. Pruitt sat on the throne at the center of the raised platform. A massive chair carved from black stone. The traditional seat of the Alpha King. He was a large wolf, powerfully built, with cold eyes and a cruel mouth. Watching him, Elva understood why wolves feared him. He radiated menace. All alphas will now reaffirm their loyalty, Pruitt announced, his voice carrying easily through the space. Come forward, kneel, and pledge your continued allegiance to my rule. One by one, alphas approached. Some knelt readily, wolves who benefited from Pruitt's regime. Others knelt reluctantly, their postures stiff with suppressed rage. When Nelson Lutz's turn came, he walked forward slowly. The entire amphitheater held its breath. Would he kneel? Or would he commit open treason? Nelson stopped before the throne but didn't kneel. I cannot pledge loyalty to a false king. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Pruitt's eyes narrowed dangerously. What did you say? I said I cannot pledge loyalty to a false king. Nelson's voice rang out clear and strong. Because the true king stands before us. The rightful heir to the Holland line. The crown prince who has returned to claim what is his. Pruitt stood slowly. The crown prince is dead. Has been for 8 years. That's what you wanted everyone to believe. A new voice called out. Christine Wyatt stepped forward. But he's very much alive. And he's here. The crowd erupted in chaos, shouting, arguing, wolves rising to their feet. Through it all, Pruitt's cold gaze scanned the amphitheater, searching. Show yourself then, Pruitt commanded. If this supposed prince exists, let him step forward and face me. Mitchell rose from his seat in the upper tiers. Beside him, Elva stood as well, her hand in his. The crowd went silent as Mitchell walked down the steps toward the platform. The moonlight caught his features, and Elva heard the whispers starting. It's him. He looks just like his father. The Holland heir returned. Mitchell climbed onto the platform, standing directly before Pruitt. The two alphas faced each other, the usurper and the rightful king, separated by 8 years of stolen power. "Mitchell Holland," Pruitt said, his voice dripping with contempt. "The coward who ran away. You dare show your face here? I dare challenge you for the throne," Mitchell said clearly. "Here, now, before all assembled packs. By the old laws of council, I claim my birthright and challenge Pablo Pruitt for leadership of the Northern Territories." The crowd erupted again, but Pruitt raised his hand for silence. His smile was vicious. "You want to challenge me? Fine. But understand, this isn't some ceremonial fight. This is to the death. Winner takes the throne. Loser dies. Those are the stakes." Mitchell didn't hesitate. "I accept." "Mitchell, no." Elva started forward, but Viola caught her arm. "This has to happen," Viola whispered. "It's the only way. But if he loses, he won't lose. Trust your mate." The crowd was clearing space in the center of the platform, forming a large circle, the ancient fighting ground. Wolves pressed close, eager to witness this moment of history. Pruitt stripped off his shirt, revealing a body covered in scars, testament to the many challenges he'd survived. He was a brutal fighter, that much was clear. Mitchell removed his own shirt, and Elva heard the murmurs his body bore scars too, but different ones. The marks of someone who'd survived not through aggression but through resilience. "Any last words?" Pruitt asked mockingly. "Just one." Mitchell looked directly at Elva. "I love you, no matter what happens." Then both wolves shifted. The transformation was instantaneous, human forms melting into wolf shapes. Pruitt was massive, his wolf form dark and scarred, built for pure power. Mitchell was slightly smaller but more elegant, his dark fur gleaming, his amber eyes blazing with intelligence. They circled each other warily. The crowd was completely silent now, holding its collective breath. Pruitt struck first, a lunging attack meant to overwhelm through sheer force. But Mitchell was faster, dodging aside and raking his claws across Pruitt's flank as he passed. First blood to Mitchell. Pruitt snarled, whirling around. He was angry now, and angry fighters made mistakes. Mitchell knew this, used it, baited him with quick strikes that kept Pruitt off balance. But Pruitt was still powerful. When he did land a hit, it was devastating. His jaws closed on Mitchell's shoulder, and Elva heard the sickening crunch of teeth meeting flesh. Mitchell yelped, but didn't retreat. Instead, he twisted in Pruitt's grip, using the momentum to drive his own claws deep into Pruitt's chest. They broke apart, both wounded, both breathing heavily. This wasn't going to be quick. This was going to be a battle of attrition, who could endure longer, who could outlast the other's strength. The fight continued, brutal and primal. They traded blows, each strike drawing blood, each wound weakening both fighters. The platform became slick with it. Elva wanted to look away but couldn't. She had to witness this. Had to be strong for Mitchell. Had to believe he would win. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Both wolves were tiring, their movements slower, their strikes less precise. But neither would yield, neither would submit. Then Pruitt made his mistake. He went for a killing blow, lunging for Mitchell's throat with everything he had left. It was a powerful attack, one that should have ended the fight. But Mitchell had been waiting for it, had been reading Pruitt's patterns, understanding his tactics. At the last possible moment, Mitchell dropped low and rolled, letting Pruitt's momentum carry him overhead. Before Pruitt could recover, Mitchell was on him, jaws closing around Pruitt's throat, claws pinning his body to the ground. It was over. The crowd was screaming now, some in triumph, some in dismay, all in shock. Mitchell held Pruitt there, teeth against his jugular, waiting, giving him one chance to submit. "Yield," Mitchell growled, the word barely understandable in wolf form but unmistakable. Pruitt struggled briefly, then went still. In wolf form, Elva saw him bare his throat, the ancient gesture of submission. Mitchell released him and shifted back to human form, standing over Pruitt's broken wolf. "Leave these territories," Mitchell commanded. "Take your loyal followers and go. If you ever return, if you ever threaten my rule again, I won't show mercy a second time." Pruitt shifted back as well, his hand clutched to his bleeding throat. He looked at Mitchell with pure hatred, but also surprisingly respect. "You've earned it," Pruitt said roughly. "The throne. You're stronger than I thought. Stronger than you'll ever understand. Mitchell looked out at the assembled wolves. Because I don't fight alone. I fight for my mate. For my pack. For wolves who've been oppressed and overlooked and told they don't matter. That's true strength. Pruitt struggled to his feet, supported by his remaining loyalists, and limped from the amphitheater. The threat was ended. The usurper defeated. Mitchell turned to face the assembled alphas, his body bleeding but unbowed. I am Mitchell James Holland, Crown Prince of the Northern Territories, rightful heir to the Holland line. His voice rang out strong and clear. I reclaim the throne. I reclaim my birthright. And I promise you I will be the king my father raised me to be, and more. I will lead with strength and compassion. I will protect the weak and honor the strong. I will rebuild what was broken, and create something better than what came before. One by one, the alphas knelt. Even those who'd supported Pruitt, recognizing the reality of Mitchell's victory. The old pledges were spoken, the ancient words of loyalty and fealty. When every alpha had knelt, Mitchell gestured to Elva. Come here, he said softly. Elva walked forward on shaking legs, climbing onto the platform. Mitchell took her hand, pulling her to stand beside him. This is Elva, my true mate. The wolf who saved me when I was broken. The wolf who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Mitchell's voice carried to every corner of the amphitheater. She is an Omega by rank, but a queen by worth. And I declare before all assembled packs that she will rule beside me. As my equal, as my partner, as my queen. The silence was deafening. An Omega queen was unprecedented. Unthinkable. Against every tradition. But Nelson Lutz rose to his feet, pressing his fist to his heart. I pledge loyalty to King Mitchell Holland and Queen Elva. Long may they reign. Christine Wyatt stood as well. Riverside Pack recognizes Queen Elva. Long may she reign. Jason Henry. Clearwater Pack recognizes Queen Elva. Long may she reign. One by one, the alphas accepted it. Some reluctantly, some genuinely, but all of them recognizing the reality. Mitchell had won, and Elva came with the package. Mitchell turned to her, cupping her face in his bloodied hands. They laughed when the Omega made it a poor lone wolf. He said softly, echoing words from their first meeting. But you were mating a king. And now you're a queen. How does that feel? Elva looked out at the assembled packs, hundreds of wolves bowing to her. An Omega who'd spent her life invisible and overlooked. She thought about Silver Creek Pack, about Karina who'd helped them escape, about Janine who'd bought them time. It feels like justice, Elva said. It feels like destiny. It feels like the moon goddess knew exactly what she was doing when she made us mates. Mitchell kissed her, there in front of all the packs, the new king claiming his queen. The crowd erupted in cheers, not all of them, but enough. Enough to build on. Epilogue. 6 months later. The coronation ceremony was held in the restored throne room of the old Holland Palace. The room gleamed with fresh paint and new furnishings, but the bones of it were ancient, a reminder of the long line of kings who'd ruled before Mitchell. Elva stood before the throne wearing a gown that had been specially made simple but elegant, in shades of silver and blue. On her head rested a crown of delicate silver, marking her as queen. Mitchell stood beside her in formal regalia, his own crown gleaming gold. He looked every inch the king, now confident, powerful, certain of his place. Below them, the assembled packs watched. Not just the Northern Territories anymore. Word of Mitchell's return had spread, and alphas from across the continent had come to witness this moment. The high priestess, an ancient wolf who served the moon goddess, directly spoke the old words of coronation, words that had been spoken for centuries, blessing each new king and queen. Do you, Mitchell James Holland, swear to rule with wisdom and strength, to protect the weak and honor the strong, to serve your packs before yourself? I do so swear. Do you, Elva Holland, swear to stand beside your king, to counsel him with wisdom, to be the voice of those who might otherwise go unheard? I do so swear. Then, by the power vested in me by the moon goddess herself, I declare you king and queen of the Northern Territories. May your reign be long and prosperous. The crowd erupted in cheers, but Elva barely heard them. She was looking at Mitchell, seeing the boy who'd run away transformed into the king he was always meant to be. And he was looking at her the same way, seeing the Omega who'd been invisible transformed into a queen who would change everything. "We did it," Mitchell whispered, taking her hand. "We did it," Elva agreed. Later, at the celebration feast, Viola approached them with a message. "This arrived for you," she said, handing Elva a sealed letter. "From Silver Creek Pack." Elva opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a single page, written in elegant script. "Dear King Mitchell and Queen Elva, congratulations on your coronation. We always knew you were destined for greatness. Silver Creek Pack wishes to establish formal diplomatic relations with the Northern Territories. We believe our packs could benefit from mutual cooperation and trade agreements. Also, I wanted you to know, I finally ended my engagement to Timothy. Told my father I was choosing my own path. It's terrifying and liberating in equal measure. I think I finally understand what you were fighting for. Perhaps someday, I'll find the courage to seek out the mate I turned away from. But for now, I'm content knowing I helped two wolves find their happiness. Your friend, if I may be so bold, Karina Bright." Elva showed the letter to Mitchell, who smiled. "Should we establish relations with Silver Creek?" he asked. "Absolutely, and when Karina visits, we'll welcome her as the friend she became." Elva folded the letter carefully. Everyone deserves a chance at happiness. Even alpha daughters who blackmail refugees. Mitchell laughed a sound of pure joy. "I love you, my impossible queen. I love you too, my stubborn king." They danced then, the new king and queen, surrounded by packs who would follow them into whatever came next. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges, conflicts, wolves who resented their rule, but they would face it together. As mates, as partners, as equals. The Omega who refused to be invisible had become a queen. The king who ran away had come home, and together, they would build a kingdom where rank mattered less than worth, where strength came in unexpected forms, where love was the greatest power of all. The moon goddess looked down on her chosen wolves and smiled. Her plan had worked perfectly. Dear viewers, as we reach the end of Elva and Mitchell's journey, I want to leave you with this question. If you had to choose between a comfortable life in chains or a dangerous life in freedom, which would you pick? Elva was an Omega with nothing, yet she risked everything for a love everyone told her was worthless. Mitchell was a king who had everything, yet he ran from a throne he wasn't ready to hold. Both had to lose everything to find what truly mattered. So I ask you, what would you be willing to lose to become who you're meant to be? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I genuinely want to know what resonated with you in this story. And if this tale of an Omega who became a queen moved you, please hit that like button. It helps more people discover stories about wolves who refuse to accept the limitations others place on them. Until next time, may you find the courage to choose love over fear, just like Elva did.